All right, good morning, everyone. This is the regular monthly open meeting of the Third Laguna Hills Mutual Board of Directors, a California nonprofit mutual benefit corporation. Today is Tuesday, July 18th, 2023, and it's 9:30 a.m. We are here live in the boardroom as well as available for viewing on TV6, Zoom, and Granicus. I'd like to call the meeting to order. I see that we have a quorum, 8 of us. We'll start today's meeting with our Pledge of Allegiance, led by Director Chris Prince. Chris?
Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Chris. It's now time to approve the agenda for today. Can I get a motion to approve today's agenda? I see Ira move, SK seconds. Thank you. Any suggested changes to today's agenda? Okay. Seeing none, we'll consider the agenda approved by consent. Moving on to agenda item 4, we're now looking to approve the meeting minutes for 3 different meetings, and let's address them separately. First, can I get a motion to approve the meeting minutes of last month's open board meeting held on June 20th? Andy moves, Donna seconds. Thank you. Any suggested changes to that? Okay. I do have a suggested change on the bottom of page 21 of 26, which is the voting, the very last sentence. Mentions that I abstained, and I wasn't the one who abstained, so if secretaries have some better records, we can just take a look at that. Okay. I think somebody did, but I don't know who it was. Looking at the video, I could see that somebody did, but that vote isn't on the video, so that's all. Anybody have any further comments?
I abstain. I vote.
Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. So hearing none, Chris abstained since she wasn't here. So otherwise, those are considered approved. Next, can I get a motion to approve the minutes of the agenda prep meeting held on July 7th? Ira moves. Chris seconds. Thank you. Any suggested changes to those minutes? All right. Seeing none, we'll consider those approved by consent. And then finally, can I get a motion to approve the minutes for the special open board meeting also held on July 7th?
So moved.
Okay, thank you, Chris. A second, Andy, thank you. Okay, all right, you're getting into it, appreciate that. Okay, any suggested changes to those minutes? All right, we'll consider those approved as well. Thank you, board. We're moving on to agenda item 5, which is the report of the chair. I just have a couple items to share today. First is a reminder that there will be 4 board director terms expiring in October of this year. If you're out there, have some available time and you have ideas about how you can improve our community, please consider volunteering to join the 3rd board. If you are interested, there are only 2 days left to apply, so please work with the corporate secretaries, which are Michaela and Paul up here, within the next couple days to get an application and you'll get it returned to them. Thanks. Secondly, I wanted to share with you that the 2024 budget discussions are proceeding as planned. The version 1 proposal was delivered by staff in early June. And then based upon discussion and requests of the board, version 2 of the proposed budget was delivered last week. The board continues to analyze and discuss the details and provide input to finance as they prepare version 3, which will be delivered on August 10th. As a reminder, there are 2 key portions of everyone's monthly assessment, a third mutual portion and a GRF portion. For this current year, the third mutual portion is $559.62 per manor per month. And the GRF portion is $221.31 per manor per month. And I understand that there are some third members that also pay a surcharge if they live in 3-story buildings. The third board is responsible for determining the third mutual portion of our monthly assessment. One of the components of the 2024 projected budget for Third Mutual is a one-time additional revenue projection of $2,250,000 as a result of clearing the backlog of damage restoration claims, a project which was funded by the third board last month. This $2,250,000 is positive and will offset expenses and would equate to $30 per manor per month. With this one-time additional revenue projection plan for 2024, the third board could keep the 2024 third monthly assessment the same as it is this year for next year, which is $559.62 per manor per month. However, the third board is also looking ahead to 2025. In 2025, since we would not have this one-time additional revenue projection, and assuming a conservative 5% increase over 2024 due to probable increases in supplies, costs, and staffing costs, the 2025 monthly assessment could be more than $619 per manor per month, which is over $60 what it is today. So just kind of sharing that with you, this board is working with finance to get more clarity on what the per manor per month might look like in 2025. And if it looks like it'll be an increase, a big increase, such as outlined above or earlier, then the board will be considering whether we should do something to even out this increase over 2024 and 2025, such as a 5% increase in 2024, followed by a 5% increase in 2025, rather than no increase in 2024 and then a 10% increase in 2025. Sharing that with you, because if you have specific opinions and thoughts on that, please feel free to attend the August 10th budget meeting and share your thoughts with the board. And that completes my remarks for today. As always, thanks for listening, and thank you for your support. We're now moving on to agenda item 6, where we'll have our update from the VMS board. VMS board director Rosemary DiLorenzo is providing today's update. Good morning, Rosemary.
Good morning, Mark. Good morning, third illustrious president and hardworking third board members, our staff, and our residents. As you've seen, because we have the information sent out to you prior to the meeting, I don't have a lot of graphs and things like that because I say, better to talk about what we're doing. So one of the biggest things that I think has been a great success, and we use this in my former life, is the Bright Ideas program that was introduced to the employees in January of this year. And it is really being run and supervised by our department head, or director as we call him, Robert Carroll. And he's doing a great job with it. And so far, we've had 5 awards thus far, and we present them and take a picture with them, etc. And we've paid out, Mark was worried about this, we paid out $4,500 in reward money, but we have saved over $70,784. And Siobhan, I'm going to ask you that. Is that for this year alone? Or?
Most of these are annually moving forward, so this year and moving forward.
So we could be saving some, yeah, so we didn't say, we're saving in year 2 this much, we just let it be that we're saving $70,000 this year, but it's going to move forward. But they don't get another reward every year, so just don't get nervous. But the other thing is so one of the things was something that our staff came up with when we moved the staff from Building E, which was to do something, I'm not very technical as far as this goes, but it had to do with fiber optic cable, and they were able to do it, saving a lot of money as opposed to outsourcing it. There are, because I always ask Mr. Robert Carroll when I see him, how are the ideas going? Are we getting more? And because we didn't know, maybe people wouldn't be excited about it, but they are. We have 6 new suggestions under review. And, one of them had to do with mailings, and another was a paper reduction effort. So, and we're looking at savings of another $10,000. And those are just from 2 of them. So we don't know what the total is from all 6. And as he goes through them, and there's an entire process of going through them, he will let us know, and we will congratulate the employees and do the rewards. We are piloting, notice I say piloting, a potential Bright Ideas program for the residents. Some of us, and this is something that we're doing on the VMS board, and some are in favor of it and some are running away from it, but we're still talking about it. So it's a pilot idea, not necessarily a pilot yet. Okay, my one little chart, and this slide, has to do with, we do KPIs every month, and we do KPIs on a number of different things, but the one I really wanted to report on was human resources, because we always have such a challenge with employees and employee needs. And you can see from this chart that we actually hired more people in May than we did in April. We had 10 resignations and terminations, and we're very, very we get very careful about why are the resignations and terminations. Were they unhappy with their work? Were they unhappy with their job? Did they retire? Did they move? This is really important, and the Human Resources Director reports back to us. So right now, as this moment in time, we have 60 vacancies, which I don't want to say is an all-time low, because that would be an exaggeration. I could probably leave and it's gone up. But we are getting it down. Probably one of the biggest improvements and the biggest help in that area was opening up part-time positions, not only as gate ambassadors. When people used to complain about our employees as gate ambassadors, I'd say because probably nobody in their former life worked at a gate, and it must be very difficult for them. So when we opened it up to work and recreation, and, you'll have our employees working part-time at the gym, welcoming people at the clubhouses, and they're really enjoying it, and that has really helped. But we keep saying, what other positions can we open up? And we have a position coming up, or we're interviewing for in a damage restoration, which Mark referred to previously, where we're trying to catch up in our billing. And we also are potentially looking at a position in the finance department that hasn't been totally worked out. So we are trying to open up as many different positions as we can to the residents, because a lot of people, not only, well, some people need the money, but some people just need to, participate and want to do things. So we're very excited about that, and the residents are happy. So I went through the last slide already because I was really moving. So now we can move over to something else that we're doing other than the Bright Ideas and recruiting, is we're trying to work on reducing the budget. And all of the department heads were giving the objective or the goal of relooking at their departments and trying to figure out how many are we working efficiently? Is there anything that we're wasting time on? Is there anything that could be modified? And with the total goal of not reducing service, because you could say, oh yeah, I can cut this, this, and this, and then our service would disappear. And our goal is always to give the utmost in service. So that was their objective when they did this. And we came up with possibly, and Siobhan, if you have anything you want to add here, possibly looking at 16 positions, which we could eliminate. And that doesn't, with a savings of $930,000.
I want to clarify 16 positions that were not funded. They're not all being eliminated.
Okay. And when we look at the money that we're saved, we're not just really saving all of that money, because we need to make changes in our staffing levels to give some necessary increases in labor costs and in labor, because some of our positions are really, really under the market. Every store you go into, is like $18. I think they have they change their numbers every day. It's sort of how much they're paying. It's amazing. So we are really looking at the staffing levels. We're really looking at what they're doing, and and I know Siobhan is working closely with staff. So, and of course, we're reporting back to the boards. Another part of this staffing is reducing non-value added tasks. A long time ago, every time we sent somebody out to work, and I've said this before, every time we sent somebody out to do plumbing or something in a unit, we used to send 2 employees, which was like, why? So we looked at that. Well, we have to be for safety. Well, no, it wasn't really. Even if the resident isn't home, we have to be able to trust our employees, and it's worked very well. And so we keep looking at all of the different things. Are they necessary? Do we have to take the flags up and down every day? What is something different that we could do? What is a different way that we could process security violation payments? So I'm just moving along faster than a speeding bullet here. Again, we keep looking at this, and we have presented this to the board. So at the end, you could ask any questions, and we'd be happy to answer them. One of the other parts of our service to the boards is the training of our employees. Yes, we could look about, let's cut this, let's eliminate that. But we really have to focus on our employee and their work attitude and their attitude toward our residents. One of the biggest areas, and I know that we talked about this, is in resident services. Anyone who answers the phone in resident services, the person on the other end is probably 90% of the time not in a good mood, because something is, so it's not like someone is calling to get a hotel room. They're calling because they have a plumbing problem or they have something. So there's a real sensitivity. So you have to be really sensitive as to what you're dealing with. So we just went through 150 of our employees went through cultural diversity and customer service training and sensitivity training. And resident services, I don't call very much, but we used to, as board members, when I was on the third board, get endless complaints about resident services. And I know that Chuck is in charge of that area, and they are working very diligently. I'm sure Siobhan could report on later on how the new phone system is working, because I don't know for myself, but that would be a good thing. But we really are working on getting the right attitude out there when people call in. Some other events of note is we had a real estate forum on July 19th, summer real estate forum. Oh, we're having. That's tomorrow. I don't even know what date it is. When you're retired, you forget what date it is. I didn't know that the training at the gym starts tonight, circuit training, when I signed up for it, but I didn't know today was the 18th. But in any case, tomorrow we're having another real estate forum featuring question and answers with attendees, and in the fall we're having another one on October 18th. We had a town hall, that one we did have with the contractors on July 10th, and one of the things that came up the most, and I'm sure that you thought this would come up, was asbestos abatement. So we are going to have another meeting with the city involved, because the residents and the contractors are very concerned about that. And the last thing on our last page is the VMS board is always looking at ways that we could improve. And one of the things we did probably 2 years ago is every month we were having the president and vice president's meeting, and we said, are we getting out of this what we want? So that was before you, Mark. So we said, well, let's have a customer service meeting. And a customer service meeting to us is you are the customers. Third, United and GRF are our customers. So we eliminated every other month, the president's meeting, and we added this customer service meeting, and we asked the boards to tell us what they want us to report on, focus on, questions and answers. So that has worked very well, and we really thank staff for doing such a great job with that. And what we decided this year is that it is now time for us to eliminate the scheduled presidents and vice presidents meeting, though they could be called at any time by the presidents or vice presidents if there's an issue that they want to go over, and instead go to a monthly client services meeting. So, and we don't have a printed schedule as to what we're going to be covering, because what we cover comes from you at the meetings and what your needs are. So this was brought up by Third, and the topic of our next meeting is how General Services Maintenance and Construction Department hold their contractors and vendors accountable for contract performance. What are we doing to make sure that they're living up to the contract expectations? That when we sign off on their jobs, that we are viewing the jobs, that we are doing all the things necessary to account for the spending of our money, et cetera. So that's going to be the topic at the August 10th meeting. And then at that meeting, we will also ask the people who are in attendance, what would you like us to discuss or review at our next meeting? I think one was going to be finance, but we're not there yet. In any case, that is the end of my presentation for today. I told you, not many charts and graphs. And if anyone has any question, please advise.
Great. Thanks, Rosemary. Looks like Moon has a question or comment, then Andy?
Thank you, Rosemary. The residents, excuse me, I'm still. The Regional Bright Idea Program, so far, what has been implemented?
Nothing. The resident one, nothing. We're
Nothing.
still talking about it.
Talking about.
Yeah, the board is going back and forth on their ideas. Some board members want to do it, some board members don't want to do it. So I believe we're going to bring it back to our first meeting in August and make a decision.
So has not been done, huh?
Right.
Okay.
And if even when and if we agree to do it, we're going to do it as a test, because we don't know if we're going to get 2 ideas or if we're going to get, well, I can't say 1,000, that would be 100 ideas, and so we don't know. And we don't want it to be overwhelming. And the VMS board has volunteered to do first review on the ideas. So we're still working on it. And some of them don't want to, well, whatever. I'm not going to go there. So,
Yeah. I think that's a great idea, but it's VMS have to decide. But user knows what's wrong, what they can do better. So resident is the people who knows what is wrong, what can be better. If you ever implement, maybe you can put little bit incentive on it. So incentivize a little bit so they can promote more for our benefit as well as a resident.
and thank you. That's a very good idea. We know, and again, we just can't be giving out money. But in the past, we had tried something like this, and we gave the reward tickets to Easter brunch, depending on what it was, or tickets to one of the shows that we control at PAC. So it's something that cost us, but it cost us in a different way, in a smaller way. So there will be some reward system as well as recognition, because recognition is very important. So that's the positive side of it. So we'll see.
Great. Thanks, Moon. Andy, and then Ira?
Thank you, Rosemary, for all that information. It's really good. But maybe we can get a little more information. I'm wondering if we can. On slide number 3, the vacancy and termination trends. Do we have any numbers for June at this point?
I'll see if I can get those, and if I can, I will share them with you this afternoon.
Okay, thank you. Next, in the May numbers, the 60 vacancies, I guess we know exactly, how many are field and how many are office?
We have that complete list. I just didn't put it in here so we could bring it to this afternoon. We get to see we know exactly how many are security, how many are in landscape. I could tell you right now, a good number of them are in landscape. I just didn't include it in this because I didn't want a lot of pages, but we have it. We'll bring it to the meeting this afternoon.
So, okay, this afternoon, so there is a number.
Oh,
a split,
absolutely.
okay. Final question has to do with slide number 5, which talks about in the 2024 staffing budget reviews, 16 vacant positions that can be eliminated / unfunded. Regarding the, and I don't want to divulge anything here, but can we get a number of that prospective amount, the eliminated, so that the vacancy number can maybe be recast in a more realistic, if we're not going to fill these vacancies here, but next year, can we adjust the numbers so we know maybe that number's going to be lower? If you're going to eliminate some positions prospectively, and I know you still have to study that in detail, but could we get a number that, maybe is that 60, a 55 number, something like that? That's where I'm going.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, when this is all, and Siobhan, you could enter this conversation whenever you feel
So,
like it. So I don't
Siobhan, we'll
want,
get it
I don't
late-
want to
we'll get it
act.
later, okay.
I don't want to act like I don't know what's going on.
Okay.
But we will look at that number. I sort of look at this and I go, my goodness, we're eliminating so many things. We don't even need building E anymore.
And again, I want to be clear, we're not eliminating necessarily, we are not funding next year.
Right.
Those
So I
16
just want
positions.
to get a feel for that. The 60
Okay.
number is going to be lower to some, I would
Yes,
think.
and I will provide that.
Okay, and then we
But-
need to split
right.
between field and office, basically. That's my terminology. Okay, talk to you later. Thank you.
All right.
Is that it?
Ira and then Moon again.
So on the little discussed page 9, slide 9, the internal audit program, I just was wondering if there were any great expectations or this is more of a basic review. That's all I was.
Oh, I would say, and again, Siobhan, go for it. I would say great expectations.
We are in the process of making a conditional offer of employment, which is good news. And then I pledged to come to each of the boards to share kind of the program with you as we launch it. So I will be in touch probably next month with some details for you.
Thanks. And Moon, you had further question or comment?
So follow up to Andy's question, and so it looks like 930 grand and about $1 million saving. Is that reflect to year 2024 budget?
Yes, it is.
It is already
Yes.
reflected? Thank you.
Okay. SK?
Based on your data, it has $930,000 savings. And I just to quickly calculate, out of 16 people, it is about $58,000 per salary. If we assume the $20 per hour, it is about $42,000 a year salary. Is $58,000 is competitive, and how good are we paying our employee?
We are just completing the annual compensation study, which compares us to similar organizations in the marketplace, and we will be sharing those results as soon as it is completed. So you will know where we're lagging, where we're competitive, and so forth.
Oh, okay, thank you.
But one of the things in that number is, you have salaries, but we used to say, are they fully loaded? So if somebody is making $20, for example, an hour, or $18, if we pay for their uniforms, we have to pay for their benefits, or our contribution, any of the contributions that we make. So the 900, the amount that you have there is a loaded number that we're saving, correct? Yeah. So probably, what, about 30% of that is 35?
We
40?
typically use 30%.
Yeah.
Yes.
So did you understand that part?
Yes, you're saying that $930,000 is also include overhead cost?
Yes, yeah.
Overhead cost, it should be more than that, normal, about 150% normal.
We can
overhead cost.
provide you an analysis.
we can.
At a
Okay,
budget,
yeah, so
at one of the
I-
upcoming budget meetings.
Okay,
This
yeah,
isn't
thank you.
really.
Yeah, Thank you.
The important thing is that you don't think that it's 930,000 plus potentially another $30,000 for benefits loaded on top of that, which makes it tremendous. So that number is an inclusive number.
Okay.
All right? So is that it?
I think so.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Rosemary. Appreciate the update and the questions and answers. We'll now move on to agenda item 7, which is our open forum. At this time, members may address the Board of Directors regarding items within the jurisdiction of this Board of Directors and not on the agenda. The board reserves the right to limit the total amount of time allotted to the open forum to 30 minutes. Each member is asked to speak for no more than 3 minutes, and a member may speak only once during the forum, and speakers may not give their time to other people. Members not in the boardroom can also share their comments by joining this meeting via Zoom or by emailing your comments to meeting@vmsinc.org to have your message read during this open forum, should time permit. So Michaela, who's first up today?
First speaker is Chris Collins.
Good morning, Ms. Collins.
Good morning. Chris Collins, 3306Q, and I'm here with an update on the work of the Foundation of Laguna Woods on behalf of residents of our community who are experiencing temporary financial crisis. There's a new initiative. Neighbors Helping Neighbors has long been the Foundation of Laguna Woods' motto, and many know sometimes means expanding the concept of help. When it was learned that nearly half of the local ambulance calls were due to falls, the Foundation began funding fall prevention classes and emergency response devices to assist our residents. Another issue has also has recently emerged, and the planning for the inevitable. For example, suddenly being admitted to the hospital without a medical directive can become a serious problem. Who will make the decisions if you're not able? Who will provide your medical history? And who will assist with aftercare planning? Being prepared can make the difference in emergencies, illnesses, and end-of-life experiences for ourselves and for our family and friends. But many of us are reluctant to make decisions, have conversations with loved ones and healthcare providers, and take financial and legal steps to plan for the uncertain future. Preparing a plan, though, can give you peace of mind, help ensure that your wishes are honored, and ease the burden of your loved ones. To begin the process of advanced planning, residents can request a copy of a booklet that's entitled 5 Wishes, which will introduce some of the issues involved, and it's from social services. You can call them at 949-597-4267. These booklets were purchased by the Foundation to help residents. The Foundation of Laguna Woods Village is also starting a new initiative to help residents plan for the inevitable. The initiative will use classes with experts, television programs, and publications to explore the psychological, health, financial, and legal aspects of planning and to identify resources to assist with the process. So be on the lookout. This initiative will begin this summer. The programs will be publicized on Village Television and in Laguna Woods Globe and the Foundation's website, which is www.foundationoflagunawoodsvillage.org. Please consult the Foundation's website as well for information about its many other activities, or you can contact the Foundation at 949-268-2246 or the Foundation at comline.com with any questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Doug Gibson.
Hi, Doug Gibson. Good morning, 5289. Rosemary's presentation was very interesting. Nice to see the direction that they're taking. Compliments to the landscaping department and this board and one way or the other. The grass is greener. The new watering system seems to be working very, very well on it. And just the reaction, even neighbors telling me, the grass is greener, but you're also starting the reseeding, which is, most of it is green. It's just remarkable after this. But the weeds, this is the best year that we've had any weed control that I can see on it. So my compliments to the board supporting Kurt and his group, because it looks like it's a wonderful thing. Last week, a couple of residents and I went to the M&C meeting. I guess the first person's thing is in works on it. I asked at the meeting that if they would please, through the committee meeting, come to your board and reflect to the shepherd hooks along Santa Maria that are bordering on Gate 11. I made a mistake. It's not 100 feet, it's 350 feet. I measured it last night. Mark may have seen me doing it in that area. Most of us that are been around for a while are aware that the shepherd hooks came up several years ago when there was actually intrusion in our property, not only around Gate 11, but around in other areas. And the board, at that decision with management, made a decision to go ahead and do the shepherd hooks. You've identified that it's very expensive, and I certainly agree with that, because there are certain areas that shepherd hooks put in now would be not as useful, but the ones that were put in, I believe, have cut down and cut a lot of the difficulty of people getting into this village, which was recognized, 5, 6, 7 years ago, I don't know. I know Gate 5, Gate 6, Gate 1, Gate 11, and everything else have greatly improved with security's use of the shepherd hooks, but it's expensive. My hope is the 350 feet going down to Gate 11, which was stopped, this board made a decision to not finish it this year, and then made the decision to not do shepherd hooks again, which the more I think about it is probably good, because the shepherd hooks aren't necessarily needed, and there must be other alternatives this time that it can be used on it. But when you look down Santa Maria, looking at Gate 11, I'd really like to see that the shepherd hooks are completed, because I think that sometime, whatever the decision is made to make those changes in the barbed wire, which mostly needs to be done somewhere or another, that it's not going to really be compatible to the entrance to Gate 11. So that's where I'm at. I'm sorry I didn't get to the committee meeting to you guys, but it gives me an opportunity to say hello and to hear to Rosemary. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Gibson.
Next speaker is Raymond LaBelle.
Raymond LaBelle, I live in the 5190 Duenas. I'm here in support of a landscape committee decision to remove bushes from behind 5191 Duenas, which intruded into the common area. I do not see the resident of 5191, who's the one, I'm under the impression he made an appeal of the landscape committee decision. If he's not here to appeal that decision, is there any reason for me to speak any longer?
There is not. His appeal is scheduled for next month.
Next month?
Yeah.
All right.
Which would be August 15th, the August 15th board meeting.
All right. Well, I yield back my time.
Okay. Thanks so much, and see you next month.
Yeah.
Next speaker is Heather Wallace.
Good morning, and thank you for allowing me the time here this morning. I've been a resident here since 1995, and in all these years, I've never complained about anything. I think this is a wonderful place to live. And yes, different issues arise, but because we are so many diversified people, we just, we have to make amends. However, I did type out a letter that I hope will be passed around for each of you to read in detail. It may sound silly at first, but it is so, so urgent. Seriously. Just in the last 2 weeks, I live in a 3-story building. Each floor has a laundry room consisting of 1 washer, 1 dryer. Everyone has been very courteous in sharing these machines. In the last 2 weeks, the dryers were replaced on floor number 2 and number 3. They were not replaced with commercial dryers. They were replaced with residential dryers. I really invite each and every one of you to come and look at this. It is a small dryer with a hose, with a little tiny pail at the end of the hose, where moisture, I'm assuming, comes from someplace while the clothes are being dried. When the water level in this little tiny pail reaches a certain level, the dryer stops. Okay? Last Friday morning, I went to do my laundry, and I'm on the 3rd floor. There was the out of order sign on the dryer, so I called resident services to make sure this was reported. And she said, yes. Okay. Now I go to do my laundry. So I use the washing machine on the 3rd floor. I take my load of wet clothes into my laundry cart. I go down in the elevator to the 1st floor to use the commercial dryer that's in the 1st floor. As I'm doing 3 different loads in the morning, I'm trying to remember, okay, which floor are my wet clothes in? Which floor are my dry clothes in? I actually almost went into a different unit that wasn't mine. Okay, while I'm going up and down in the elevator and doing this, which is very exhausting, resident services called in reply to my phone call. My husband wrote down their answer. The answer was, the dryer overheats, and when it does, it will automatically stop. Okay. The washers and dryers sat on pedestals. When they put these 2 new dryers in, they did not use the pedestal. So the dryer is now at a much lower level than the washing machine. As you can see, I'm short. I don't have to bend that far to put my clothes in and out. But for people that are taller, they do have to do some bending. I don't understand at all why commercial dryers were not replaced. Okay, I just read last night at 9 o'clock about this meeting this morning, which is why I'm here. I don't know where else to take this issue to. So I really, really appreciate it if you would read what I've written, and if somebody could contact me with some kind of results or what else I can do. You know, I'm part of this village. I'd like to improve our situation. This is really hard on seniors to do their laundry with these kinds of machines. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next speaker is Cheryl Finnick.
What is your building number, Ms. Wallace?
2397.
Thank you.
Hi, good morning, 2350. I have 2 topics. I'm going to talk really quick using some of my New York City skills. The first one is sort of recalling. About 9 months ago, a couple of the board members, I complained that in cul-de-sac 202, we have 2 underground parking merging into a cul-de-sac, a busy cul-de-sac. And while there's a stop sign going in, there's not a stop sign going out, wanting people to be concerned, and they're not using their own knowledge to think that maybe there might be running into someone. And it continues to be a problem, and most of our neighbors are very, very cautious about driving past because we know someone can jut out pretty quickly. 2 of the board members came out very nicely, and we appreciate them coming out on Saturday morning. But coming out on a Saturday morning does not give you a good indication of the traffic that is going on at 202 and coming in and out of the buildings. And you don't have the vendors, you don't have the contractors, you don't have the double parking, you don't have the residents. And we still have near misses all the time. And all we need is a stenciled stop sign. Not every exit out of that 3-story building comes into a cul-de-sac. Some just have a main road, a little road, and they go out. I'd like to reconsider that. I'm not sure. I know I'm very appreciative of all the money you do not spend, and being very, very observant on the money. But I'm wondering just the cost of just stenciling in a stop sign as they exit. The other thing that the board members said they do, they communicated in light of not using the money. Nothing was ever communicated, whether in any sort of communication paper or otherwise. So I'd like for that reconsideration. So the second part of it is more thank you. And I think it's the third. Those lights on the stop sign, I'm not sure if it says sport or G or F, but nonetheless, thank you, thank you, thank you. I walk. 4 to 5 miles a day. And there isn't one day that I walk that I'm not almost killed or maimed by some of our residents who just don't think stop signs are for them. They either they're turning and they don't see someone walking, they don't pay attention to the stop sign, they have the California roll. I can't begin to tell you. The other day, I was walking and there was a really older woman on a walker. I swear to God, that guy was turning, he did not see her, and I grabbed her. You know, so the lights on the stop sign, really, I mean, I really appreciate it. I mean, if it's up to me, I would love to have the audio portion of it where John Philip Sousa's marching bands play as well, but I know that's not good. So thank you so much for that. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Ms. Fennick.
And the final speaker is Teresa Kennedy, who emailed into us this morning, so I'll go ahead and read that right now. She said, "Good morning. I'm writing to the board today to follow up on my request to have Manor Alterations rescind my mutual demo permit. I originally contacted the ACSC on June 12, 2023 about my issue, but a decision was not made at that time. Not long after, and having not heard back from the committee, I brought it up to the full third board via email at your June 20th meeting. I watched the video of that meeting later, and the president stated he knew the demo permit issue was still being worked. I also asked about an extension for completing my project, and I got that question answered that day. I will be contacting Manor Alterations to request that. So thanks for that answer. That helps to ease my mind since I will be leaving town soon to help care for my father. At that meeting and regarding the issue of the demo permit being rescinded, comments by Mike Horton about my request included, she is not doing a demo and we didn't charge her, but the form was just to document the city and the AQMD that ACM may be involved. As I mentioned in my first request on the issue, the city told me that the designation of demolition on the separate HOA demolition form incurs an added fee of $190 for city permits. I have also been told by the city that determination of a demolition automatically triggers asbestos testing. My problem with this in my case is that the work I propose does not include any structural changes and does not meet the criteria of work considered demolition. Therefore, no demolition designation should be required by the HOA or the city. Furthermore, I do understand according to the city and the AQMD testing may be required in renovation activities as well. I'm also aware that should I elect to do abatement instead, it can be done without sample testing in advance. I haven't decided which way to go. However, my point is the HOA has no authority saying everything is a demolition if ACM is involved. Their own published information states that not all mutual consents require a demo permit, and mine should be in that category. I want to assure you that any assumption by Mike or the city that my intent is in this matter is to bypass testing is not true. I have provided the ACSC committee chair and the board president additional information since my original request and believe you should make the decision to support me in rescinding the HOA issued demo permit. If you agree to rescind, I would be able to provide the city with the approved mutual consent form that covers my scope of work. This would leave the other questions regarding ACM and how that gets managed to the proper building authority, which is the city. In summary, I would like to ask again for an answer to this question at this time. If you are still not ready to provide me with an answer, can you please let me know when I can expect to hear from you and how I will be contacted? I'm still hopeful that at some point I can proceed with my renovation plan and get the proper permits issued by the city and avoid the $190 demolition fee the city has told me I will have to pay. Thank you for your consideration. And that is all for open forum.
Great, thank you. Any comments or questions from any board members? All right. Yeah.
Yeah, can I get the Cheryl Finnick building number?
$2350.
2350, what's the unit number?
C.
B.
C. C is in cat.
Okay. Oh, what about the Heather Wallace?
2397.
Oh, yeah, building unit.
Her issues with the washers and dryers?
Yeah,
3H.
3H, okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, Ms. Collins is left. Mr. Gibson, as mentioned earlier, I guess it was last week, the The budget discussions for 2024 are ongoing, and we will look at whether we should be adding Shepherd's Crook to that to finish up the Santa Maria. Ms. Wallace, I'll work with staff. She looks like she had to go. I'll work with staff to figure out what's going on with the dryers there. It doesn't sound quite right, but I know we've been having a lot of problems with the dryers, so they may have put some stopgaps in to try to help solve the problem, but it sounds like it may, if that's the case, it may have caused some different issues. Ms. Fennick, I will look at that again, and I will get back to you, okay? Once I find out, I'll let you know soon within the week where I am with it and about when you might expect a real response. But let me just find out where we are with it. And then Ms. Kennedy, I know she's given me some letters. I've tended to give them to Director Cook, who's the chair of the ACSC. I know he's working with Mr. Horton on this situation, so I will respond to her in one way, shape, or form by the end of this week with some status. I'm not sure it'll be the status that she's looking for, but we'll try to get this resolved for her as well, because I know she's been talking about it for a while. Yes, Ira?
So with regards to Ms. Wallace, I do know that M&C has decided to use commercial speed queens in the future, so that should help. Going from what you call a residential dryer back to a higher quality commercial dryer.
Great. Okay, thanks, Ira. And thank you, everybody, for your comments. Appreciate them. We're going to now move on to agenda item 9. To each of our monthly board meetings this year, we've been adding a department update segment where one of the leaders from VMS provides a short presentation about their organization to help communicate with our members additional information about the leaders and the key activities being worked by VMS. Jose Campos, who is the Assistant Financial Services Director, was planning to join us today, but unfortunately, due to a family emergency, he's not going to be able to make it and present to you any information about financial services. So we'll push him off until next month, and you'll hear more about financial services organization next month. So, Jose, all the best to you and your family. Moving on to agenda item 10, which is the CEO report. Siobhan?
Thank you, Mark. Honorable board members, it's my pleasure this morning to talk about ways to save costs and efficiencies. As the boards and the staff are in mid-budget preparation, I want to reiterate how residents can help reduce costs and highlight recent landscaping services and maintenance and construction efficiency enhancements. As a quick reminder, I know President Laws touched on this earlier, the next budget plan meetings are televised and they'll be held in August. Thirds will be on Thursday, August 10th at 9:30 a.m. GRF's is Monday, August 7th at 9:30 a.m. and United's is Wednesday, August 9th at 1:30 p.m. One way residents can help reduce costs is to opt out of paper mailings. Senate Bill 392 mandates each member receive a written request to indicate their preferred delivery method. This was sent to every member with the 2022 audited financial statements in May. In case you missed that form, residents may email their delivery method preference to the email address information@vmsinc.org. September 1st is the response deadline, or the last mailing address provided will be the one that is used for the next year. To reiterate, the mandated November and April mailings cost approximately $7.50 per member. So if 12,000 members were to opt out of the paper mailings and receive them electronically, the annual savings would be $90,000. Currently, we have 3,100 owners who have opted out for an estimated savings of $23,000, and we'd really like to get this number higher. So we encourage everyone to email their delivery method preference by September 1st. Other ways residents can reduce cost is by using Dwelling Live and Easy Pay, for example. Registering guests electronically instead of by telephone for guest clearance at the gates can save up to $1.60 per call. Training classes are available to learn how to use village technology, including Dwelling Live, the resident portals, and others, in partnership with the PC Club. Classes are from 1 to 3 p.m. at the PC Club Learning Center here on the Community Center 3rd floor. The next classes are Wednesday, July 19th, and Wednesday, August 16th. You can register on the PC Club website or at the PC Club Learning Center on the 3rd floor. I've previously highlighted cost reductions and efficiencies implemented by our departments, including human resources and the new employee health insurance program that saved more than $500,000 in the current year. General Services went through a fleet right sizing assessment, which will save more than $600,000 over the next 4 years. General Services is also purchasing smaller buses, which save $35,000 in purchase costs and an estimated $42,000 in fuel savings over the life of the buses. Media and Communications secured a 3-year agreement with Memorial Care, valued at more than $660,000 for the Village Breeze publication, event sponsorship, and wellness bus routes. Today, I want to highlight cost reductions and efficiencies in the landscaping services and maintenance and construction departments. In landscaping services, the Master Irrigation Control System project, which is now 80% complete, is going to save an estimated 74 million gallons of water throughout the village annually and reduce water costs by $280,000 per year. Plus, it is eligible for $350,000 in Metropolitan Water District rebates. The department has also adjusted the mowing protocol by retaining 7 mowers that were slated for surplus. This allows more acreage to be mowed in less time and reduces 320 labor hours per mow cycle. This is equivalent to $11,000 per cycle and $290,000 annually. These gardener hours are reallocated presently to shrub bed maintenance cycles. Landscaping Services is also mixing pre-emergent herbicides with non-selective herbicides to spray both simultaneously. This halves total spray hours, and crews can cover twice the area in the same time to address weeds. This saves an estimated 144 labor hours per week in the spring and summer months, equivalent to $4,800 per cycle and $126,000 annually. Again, these gardener hours are allocated to shrub bed maintenance cycles. Landscaping is also mixing pre-emergent herbicides with mulch. This reduces revisits to spray weeds. It saves 160 hours per month, or $5,300 per month and $64,000 annually. These gardener hours have been reallocated to shrub bed maintenance. Looking to the maintenance and construction department, the department has implemented a management on-call system for after-hours emergencies that is reducing after-hour vendor costs by 7%. In this process, security contacts the on-call after-hours maintenance manager, and this maintenance manager determines if an incident warrants immediate attention, and if so, dispatches the necessary vendor. This reduces costs because the contractor won't respond to minor issues that VMS can handle the next day, and incidents the contractor does not have the capability to address at night. The department has also increased plumbing contractors on its available list from 2 to 5. This reduces emergency response times to approximately an hour to an hour and a half, from a range of 2 to 7 hours, thereby reducing damage. Maintenance and Construction has also researched and implemented a new appliance brand, as was mentioned here at the dais, Speed Queen, for laundry facilities. This is to improve equipment quality and to reduce staff time dedicated to repairs. The department has implemented monthly contractor meetings to review all work and invoicing to ensure quality and accuracy. The department is reviewing construction materials to expand the lifespan of materials and to use the latest industry standards. Cost savings is estimated to be $150,000 per mutual over the next 2 years. The department has also implemented bulk material ordering with selected vendors. The cost savings associated with this is approximately 3% of the materials budget. Maintenance and Construction is creating and updating SOPs for specific work tasks. This results in an estimated 10% efficiency and work order closures. The department routinely reviews staffing capabilities and reassigns staff based on job knowledge and skills, resulting in an estimated 10% efficiency in work completed. The department is implementing technology to allow moisture intrusion coordinators to transfer field information to administrative staff for faster processing. This allows the coordinators more time in the field responding to cases, resulting in less costly repairs for mutuals and members. Maintenance and Construction has created a tracking system to manage contractors to ensure quality and compliance with contract specifications. The department is reassigning operation coordinators to assist 4 persons with contacting residents to schedule work and manners. This allows the 4 persons to spend more time in the field overseeing operations. The department has implemented cross-training initiatives to allow the temporary reassignment of personnel to support work areas experiencing workload surges. And in the manor alterations division specifically, the department restructured and enhanced training to improve the call answer rate from 32% in 2022 to 88% this year. And this has also reduced the email backlog from 683 emails in January to 3 in May. Manor Alterations has also eliminated the requirement to include asbestos reports with mutual consent applications, reducing the approval time from 3 weeks to 5 business days for mutual consent applications. And so those are some of the highlights that I wanted to share with you this morning, and that concludes my presentation. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Anybody have any questions or comments for Siobhan? Ira?
With regards to Dwelling Live, do you know when it's going to be back to full functionality?
I will check on that and report back to you.
Okay, thanks.
SK, were you raising your hand? Yes?
Yes. Regarding general services, fleet right-sizing assessment, could you elaborate a little bit?
Sure, that had 3 components. One was to see if there were any vehicles that we don't need, quite simply. The other was to look at ways departments can share vehicles because sometimes they're not utilized fully, so we looked at that. And then the largest component was looking at downsizing vehicles. So if you have a Ford F-250 pickup truck, for instance, can we purchase a Ford Ranger, essentially 2 sizes smaller, to complete the same amount of work that was done with the larger vehicle?
Yes, I hope everybody understand that what we're doing on that. The second question is, eliminated the requirement to reduce asbestos reports within with manual consent applications. I like to, inform everybody about that too.
I would like to either have Bart or Michael just address that real quickly, since there are resident experts in there in the room. Thank you.
If you'd be kind enough to repeat that question so I heard it correctly.
Oh, the eliminated asbestos test requirement?
What it says is that you eliminated the requirement to
Right.
include asbestos reports
Yes.
with mutual consent applications.
I'm smiling because I need to use my words very specifically, because eliminated doesn't mean that we just removed it from the requirement from us, because Manor Alterations and Davis Sterling, we're not the ones that require it. The city and the AQMD require it. So what we did is we allocated it to the governing body that it belongs to, which is the city and the AQMD. So the letter that we heard earlier that was read from a resident that's not present is exactly what that discussion is going to be about later on. But what it had done is it had slowed the process down, because we don't require that paperwork unless the city or the AQMD tells us that it's required. It's not our place to make that determination. We're not the governing body.
Okay, so that means AQMD test requirement is still exist.
Yes, sir. It's called 1403 for the Southern California Air Quality Management Department. And the requirement says is that if anything is going to be disturbed, and a disturbance is defined as the removal of any flooring, wall, toilet, anything that disturbs the interior of your home, and your home was built previous to 1989, you're going to need an asbestos report to confirm that it is not hazardous material.
Well, this is a very sore issue for all the residents, including myself. My question is, my home has been tested for asbestos for many years ago and was clear for that. Now, if I want to change, example, some cabinet in my kitchen, that means I have to, if I drilled some hole, big holes, then I have to do asbestos test again. Am I correct?
Well, I'm going to say it like this. I'm going to quote exactly the 1403, the AQMD's policy, and then I'm going to quote the city's policy. And then I'm going to quote that as myself, as Manor Alterations, I have no, Mark, are you smiling at me? I have no say in the matter, so, and nor does anyone here. So this is, it's a very, very detailed, convoluted message. And so the first thing I want to say is that Davis Sterling, which is our CCNRs, it requires us to, if there's going to be a disturbance, to follow the proper 1403 asbestos testing. It's on our website. Then we have to defer that requirement to the city and the AQMD. And then they tell us whether it needs to be tested. Now, I can give you exactly what it says in 1403 because this has been going on since before I got here. I've become an asbestos expert on 1403. And what it says is, once your residence is tested and that report is done, that report should last forever until, this is the best part, until you do a renovation or a demolition. Either the words are in AQMD language in the city, those words are interchangeable, demolition or renovation. And once you do a renovation,
Michael, could you speak in the microphone, please?
Sure. And once you do a renovation, this is the best part. The rest of the world does not have the asbestos and abatement requirements that America does that was written in 1989. So if you get your materials from overseas, anywhere but the United States, it does not guarantee the material you just put back in your home on a remodel does not have asbestos or hazardous materials in it. So once you've disturbed your home and made a remodel, you will then have to get that kitchen or that bathroom or that room that was remodeled, if you ever touch it again, retest it. That's the fun part about 1403.
So we represent our residents, or
Yes.
all the members. Is there any way we can challenge that rule so that, I'm serious. Is there any way? If the rule is rule,
Well, I will just...
rule is for the people,
Correct.
by the people, for the people.
I will say this, as I did in my contractors meeting. I very much agree with you. As being a licensed contractor for my entire life, I believe that the 1403 is very overregulated. However, if there's anybody here, and we have several city employees that are, on to their next careers, going up against the city or a governing body and getting them to change their mind is not very likely. So what we do have to do is, I actually have the paperwork with me, is that we are required by Davis Sterling that we have to give the asbestos notification because you did. You're thinking as a contractor and a resident that's doing the remodel, you're thinking, okay, this is a little overregulated. However, we also have to think that with everyone within 100 feet of your home, that you just disturbed hazardous material, they have the right to be notified and they have the right to be deemed as in a safe environment from construction. Okay, and so by us trying to circumvent that procedure would make an unhealthy environment for others.
Okay,
That's-
thank you. I'm
you're
just
welcome.
trying to challenge that overrated AQMD test. I think it's, to me, I'm sorry to using this language, but it serves like a senior diploma soccer.
Well, and so I will make one comment for those of you that did not make the construction town hall. I specifically invited the city and the permit department and their compliance officer because I did want them to be very, very well aware of what is going on in our community. And then one of the residents was kind enough to schedule an appointment the very next day with the manager of the AQMD and gathered really good information. And I forwarded all of that to the compliance department in the city. And so I am having it investigated as to, as you said, as to challenge the level of overregulation to that. I don't know what the result's going to be, but it will not be for lack of effort for us.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, keep working then. Thank you.
Thanks. Any other questions, comments for Shawana? Kush?
We saw a great report, Shawan. In most of these pages, we see cost reductions and efficiencies. So the cost reductions that we see, will they affect our budget for 23 or 24?
They are reflected in your 2024 budget.
24
Yes.
budget. Okay, thank you.
And I just had a question, this opt-out process that you continue to remind us about, so thanks for that. If a new resident moves in, are they automatically given that form as part of their escrow package?
Yes, they have to indicate their preferred method of delivery.
Okay. Just want to make sure that we weren't always chasing them. Thanks. All right. Okay, we're going to move on to agenda item 11, which is our consent calendar. All matters listed under the consent calendar are recommended for action by committees and will be enacted by the board via a single motion. Today, per the consent calendar, the board is being asked to ratify the preliminary financials for the month of May 2023 and approve a couple of landscape committee decisions. Hopefully you've all reviewed these. Can I get a motion to approve the consent calendar? Kush moves, Donna seconds. Thank you both. Any questions, comments from members before I ask for a vote? Okay, I'm assuming, Michaela, there's no comments from third members since you're not looking this way. Any objections to approving the consent calendar? Okay, all right, we'll consider the consent calendar approved by consent. And now we're on agenda item 12. 12A specifically is for the board to entertain a motion to approve a reenactment of Architectural Standard 41A, which was previously Standard 45, for solar panels on two-story buildings. These updates were suggested by the ACSC, which is our Architectural Controls and Standards Committee. Last month, this board approved these changes for 28-day member review and comment with some requested changes, minor changes at the time. So today we'll be voting as to whether or not to approve these changes for implementation. So first I'd like Chris to read us the resolution, if she would, please.
Yes. Alteration Standard 41A, solar panels, two-story buildings. Whereas the Board of Directors of the 3rd Laguna Hills Mutual Board recognizes the need to amend standards and create new standards as necessary, and whereas the board recognizes the need to reenact Standard 41A, previously Standard 45, solar panels, two-story buildings with flat roofs. Now therefore be it resolved July 18, 2023, that the board hereby adopts Standard 41A, solar panels, two-story buildings as attached to the official minutes, meeting minutes, and resolve further that Resolution 03-18-85, adopted June 19, 2018, is hereby superseded in its entirety and no longer in effect, and resolve further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of the corporation to carry out this resolution as written.
Thank you, Chris. Before we discuss it, can I get a motion to approve this reenacted? Andy moves, Moon seconds. Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from members of the board? Ira?
Michael, where are the estimates of the square footage? Also, there's a missing map for
Seville?
For the Sevilles that are basically vaulted ceilings or two-story unit. They're the only two-story unit that I'm aware of. They're not on here as well. So I know you don't like estimations, but You need to do it with a disclaimer, as we talked about before.
Yes, so for you, Ira, I went in and did, and for those of us that don't know, Ira is very, very well versed in solar knowledge. So for you on 3.0, under obligations 3.1, the amended statement says the solar panel, the bottom three sentences, the solar panel allocation is estimated at 200, and by the way, I already spell checked that, the square footage will be added. That spell check, I guess, does not like the word SQ. However, this is not a guarantee of allocation. This is an approximation to allow manners and an understanding of the limited amount of roof space and the availability. I also took the square footage of the 200 square feet for everyone to understand that in our 2-story and 3-story buildings, that 1,200 feet under the solar calculation is typically 5 full-size panels, which would, and 200 square feet would fit up to 10 panels for those of us that want to have an electric car at someday. I also talked to my electric engineers and went into a little more detail on how, when we get to that point, how we're going to run the power from the meters and run it up the building with the proper chase and coverage and allocation. So I feel pretty comfortable with it.
Okay, great. So this is in the new one we just got this morning. Okay. But you need to add the map for the Seville.
Okay.
Because that's an anomaly, because it has internal stairways. It's a single unit, but it has a bedroom or studio upstairs with vaulted ceilings. So technically it is a 2-story home, but there's nobody above it.
Right, and it's not a 2-story building, it's a 2-story home. And I think I've actually been into one to
I think they're fourplexes that they're in. So it's just an anomaly, a complication, but that needs to be added in.
Thank you.
So in following up with Ira's comment, I'm looking at page 12 and 13 of 18, which are these pictorial maps. You're suggesting that all of these squares are approximately 200 square feet?
Yeah, so how we did the calculation is that in the most fair calculation that we could do is that as you have different models within the building, some are 800 square feet, some are up to 1,200 square feet, so an appropriated percentage of square footage of roof space would be allocated to each unit as per their square footage. And then doing that calculation knowing that 2.7 is the magic number that the grid likes, which is 5 panels, and that would, and 200 square feet would be a very safe estimation because it would fit up to 10 panels and would be very, so it would be double the amount of panels they would need for the 2.7 that requires for a 1,200 square foot home.
Got it. I guess I'm...
Sorry, I was a little nerdy, wasn't it?
Yeah, but that's okay. That's okay. I guess I was expecting that the square footage was going to be on these maps because just looking at them, they look different sizes. And if I'm, in a Casa Linda, I'd be looking at the Casa Linda map type of thing versus something else. So I'm just, I'm wondering if this 200 square feet with the disclaimer is just really a easy way out, where some of these are really only 140 feet, but because I have the disclaimer in there, it's okay type of thing.
Well, so as we did several roof walks, and as Ira was jokingly saying, I don't like the guesstimation because when we're on the roof, there are roof jacks and piping vents that are in areas that that will probably have to be relocated, and things like that. So it's to get to that level of detail of going into each, then somebody would come back to me because I can tell you right now, if I look at any of these, when I look at the true Google Earth aerial photo, I've got roof jacks that I'm going to have to relocate when the time is necessary. However, as it's going to be a first come, first served basis and closest to the electrical conduit that we're going to be running up the side of the wall, those things will get addressed as we get further down with, with other residents or owners.
Okay.
Or members.
I see Ira's hand up, so I'll let him take the next.
So let's say, pick a map, I don't care, and a person lives in one of these buildings, at that point in time, are you going to assign them a square footage max that they can use?
Yes.
Okay, so it's going to be on as it comes in to you, alterations for solar placement, you will then, before anything is done, before they pay you or after they pay you, or, this is going to get sticky only because the resident may have in mind, I need X number of panels, and you're not going to give me enough room for X number of panels, you're going to give me room for Y. They want to know before they spend a penny if they can actually go through the whole process. So where in the process are you going to tell them that they have, as Mark brought up, 148 square feet versus the 200, and which may or may not satisfy their electrical needs?
Right. So and you're the best, I would say best qualified to ask the question because you've gone through this process already. And if I remember, you have 23 panels on your roof?
I have 22, yeah.
Okay. And we won't rehash it. I know why you have that many panels. But so that's why when I did this, and I took the maximum calculation of a 1,200 square foot unit in these buildings, which is 2.7, which is the need, which is 5 panels. Going up to 10 panels would cover an additional car, would cover if they actually added additional washer and dryers, and additional units to the panel. So and as I said, you know how much I do not like estimating, but it's a very safe estimate. If we had no obstructions on the roof, we could get up to 15 panels per unit. I don't right now, for somebody to need that many panels, I don't know what they would need it for. I couldn't find any of my solar contractors to give me, an answer
I
to
can.
get to 15.
That's easy. That's easy. The average freestanding home or even duplex, most solar companies say roughly 17 panels, 16, 17 panels. According to my neighbors. And that's where they start. They look at it at 80% usage of your electricity. I'm a little different simply because I have 2 electric cars, and they use the lion's share of what I produce. And then heating, then air conditioning, actually. If you have to list it down. Mm-hmm. But one of my cars can, on average, use 270 kilowatts a month easily. And the other one a little less because it's a single engine. But to give you an idea, and production-wise, 22 panels on average is going to give you about between 1,000 to 1,100 during the year per month.
So the philosophical question we kept coming back to is how do we give space that we don't have to give? Mm-hmm. Correct? And so what I kept going back on the calculation was very simply, if I, as you said with the 80% rule, 1,200 square foot unit, which would give me about $65 back to the grid on 5 panels, which if I got up to double that would give me $130 back to the grid if I did 10 panels. For an electric bill, like you said, of 80%, where I had calculated a standard electric bill in that area is right around the $90 mark for the size of the P-tax or the wall units. However, that was yesterday's news because we don't know. I can tell you this morning, my power was out in my neighborhood for a rolling blackout, and thankfully I don't need an alarm clock to wake up. So, I understand. If you guys had a great solution, I'd love to hear it.
Well, the other question.
I think his question was, I'm going to just kind of take back, when in the process will you be able to tell somebody how much space they have?
Okay, right. So as soon as any one of the solar companies comes out and then they give them a quote and they submit the patent, then I'm going to go back and do an exact aerial blueprint of the allocation of space.
Okay. That's without doing it all at once, survey, which would be expensive.
Correct.
And maybe unnecessary. As long as it's done up front before anybody spends much time or much money, then I'm okay with it. That's all I'm getting at. I
Yes.
don't want to wait till the end of the process. They want to put in X number of panels and you say, oh, nope, can't do that, sorry.
Very valid question, and I think with my personality, I would not allow that to happen. We'd address it up front. Yeah.
Yeah, but you aren't always going to be here.
That's true.
Probably.
I could retire, yes.
Power may go out and you won't be here tomorrow. I just want to make sure, we all want to make sure that these policies and standards are until the board decides to change them.
Yeah. So if you could list that when in the process you're going to do that in here, amend this, it would be better for the next person that takes your position.
Agreed.
So there's no confusion moving forward.
And would you like me to add that as a subset of obligations under 3.1?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay. ASK, you had a question or comment?
Yeah, I have a question regarding the size of panel. I'm going to wait. I'll wait until you finish it.
Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, a good example is page 16 of 18. Let's say manor N. How many panel that is? The solar panel that will contain?
He said 16.
Page 16 of 18, 12A.
So as I said, the 200 square feet will hold up to 10 panels, and that's the estimate of space. So it would be up to 10 panels.
10 panels? Okay, 10 panels. Is it going to be tied to current grid, or is it just stored into the battery and then later used for their own? What's the deal?
Okay, so it would be like this. It would be the standard practice of solar panels. So it would either go back to the grid and off of their bill, or it's going to go off the roof down into the metered panels and then to the grid.
So then, manor N, how much power it will generate? I know it depends on, but what is the maximum capability of that panel?
Okay, that's what I was saying. 5 panels generates 2.7.
2.7 kilowatt hour?
Yep.
A kilowatt?
Yep, and then that gives you $60 to $65 back in credit under when I did this 2 months ago.
Normally, you need about 3 kilowatt per house.
Well, the standard calculation says 2.7 for 1,200. As I disclaimed it with 1,200 square feet, and these units don't have more than, I think the largest one is 1320.
So, okay. Based on that size.
Right, so 2.7 is 5, 5.4 is 10. And so if they needed 3, then I'd give them 6 panels and they would still be under their 200 square feet.
Yeah, but manor N, one manor will get only 2.7 kilowatt. That's what you're saying?
No, they can get up to 5.4.
5.4?
What I said is 1,200 square feet is the calculation that wants 2.7. That's what I based it off of the industry standard.
So our roof of the 2-story building is that big? Okay. I don't know. I'm not ignorant of those, but all I know is how to generate, whether that goes to the grid or you store it in the battery and then you use your own for later use, that kind of. But one house need average about 3 kilowatt to service your home requirement.
Okay, so you and I are saying the same thing.
Okay.
Okay, we're just, how I went about I just went down a linear progression of math, and that's what I was saying. 1,200 square feet needs 2.7. So if you're saying the average house needs 3, under that calculation, you're referring to a 1,320 square foot home. I'm giving you 200 square feet that allows you to have a maximum up to 10 full-size panels, which would be 5.4.
Okay.
Okay, so 5.4 would be well over 3, and 2.7
I
would be for
understand.
1,200.
If that's the case, it's worth it.
Yes.
What is the ROI on that one? Do you know?
Well, okay.
So
the ROI
I'm going to just kind of,
Okay.
this is for the standard to approve, not to
Okay.
learn everything there is to know about solar panels at this time.
Okay.
We can have that
I
discussion a little later.
understand.
Okay.
Sometimes I carry it out.
That's okay, that's okay. And part of my job is to
I will say this.
rein you back when needed, so all good.
Mark, I will say this on that ROI question. The very simple statement would be, it would be in a building's best interest to do as many as possible at once, because the cost allocation to do 10 panels for one unit would be probably in the $20,000 range, versus if you did 5 or 6, because I asked that very question, because it was exactly what I thought. If we did 5 or 6 at a time, it would drop those costs down to more around the $12,000 range per resident, which is, a significant savings.
Okay.
And Siobhan loves giving significant savings reports.
Okay, she does, all right. Any other questions, comments before we vote?
Lots of questions, but not the right one.
Okay, but do we have any member comments on this topic?
We have two. The first one is from Wolfgang Cutter, and they said, "Dear board members, in finalizing your standards for rooftop solar installations on two-story buildings, please make sure that the standards reflect the possible reflection of sun rays to the side of buildings higher up on a slope and how to prevent this from happening." And the second one is from William Walsh. And they said, on April 15th, SCE implemented the Net Metering 3.0 program for new residential solar installations. Under the Net Metering 3.0 program, SCE is able to reduce the price they pay for electricity from new residential solar installations by 75% compared to the price they currently pay residents under the Net Metering 1.0 and 2.0 programs. In essence, under the Net Metering 3.0 program, SCE is encouraging residential customers who install solar panels after April 2023 to consume the electricity they generate in their homes or store it in batteries for use at a later time in the day. Our policies and procedures in place concerning how and where Third Mutual will permit residents to place battery storage systems in their manors to store excess electricity from their solar installations. Also, our policies and procedures in place that will permit Third Mutual residents to anchor their solar panel racking system to the roof using ballast. Ballast systems like sandbags are much less expensive and invasive than bolting the solar racking system to the roof rafters. Is the City of Laguna Woods on board with these policies and procedures? Thank you, and that is all from the members.
Okay, thank you. All right, any question, comments, further, final, based on those comments? All right. Okay, I guess we have a motion on the table, so I guess it's now time to vote. Again, this vote is to approve the updated standards with these couple minor modifications, adding Seville and adding SQ between 200 and feet. All right. Hopefully coming up on your screen, you may have to scroll down. Oh, there it is. All right.
Ralph, if you could provide your vote.
Okay, I'll just raise my hand and call that the vote.
Thank you.
Is Donna trying? It's not coming up on Donna's?
I'm not coming up, but I'm voting yes.
Okay. And Kush, what's your vote?
Yes.
Okay, thank
I
you.
don't see anything that I can push over here. Okay, go ahead. It's a yes.
Okay. All right. The vote is in. There's 8 yeses, 1 no, and that was me, and 0 abstentions. Yeah, okay. So this passes. So it's now a new standard, new updated standard. So we'll move on to agenda item 12B, trying to move along here. It's for the board to entertain a motion to approve a revision to architectural standard number 1, which is for general requirements, These updates were also suggested by the ACSC. Last month, this board approved these changes for 28-day member review and comment. So today we'll be voting as to whether or not to approve these changes for implementation. Chris, again, can you read this resolution for us, please?
Yes. Section 1, General Requirements. Whereas the Architectural Controls and Standards Committee recognizes the need to amend standards and create new standards as necessary, and whereas the general requirements are and should remain the same for all standards. Now therefore be it resolved July 18, 2023, that the board hereby adopts Standard 1, General Requirements for all standards as attached to the official meeting minutes, and resolve further that Resolution 03-18-12, adopted January 19, 2018, is hereby superseded in its entirety and no longer in effect, and resolve further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of the corporation to carry out this resolution as written.
Great, thank you, Chris. Can I get a motion to approve this revised standards before we vote on it? Kush moves, Donna seconds. Thank you both. Any questions, comments? Hey, Ira, you have some questions or comments?
Yeah,
Glad you
so
read this.
1.4, where it says that a member, his or her contractor must coordinate with the city work that is performed outside the city working hours or city observed holidays. And what do those happen to be? Are they different from ours? Why is this in here? Does it matter? That's just number one. Number two, just out of curiosity, under 1.7 with regards to dumpsters may not be placed in cul-de-sacs or parking spaces, this can be an issue on many, 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 many cul-de-sacs. What is your intention with regards to that? 1.9, audio playing devices. So if I turn my radio on for the guys, I'm going to get fined? Is that how this works? I think
Hope
that's
so.
a little.
Sorry.
Yeah, if I play music you don't like. Okay. And then staging areas, I think you have everything kind of worded upside down. Because the most important thing about staging areas is the request for one, then the location and size, then the rules for this area. It seems like it's that particular, what is it, 1.10? I guess that's it. It is kind of in a confusing textual context.
Okay, in order. Work hours with the city. The city defines their work hours as 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Saturday. And then actually, it's all the way from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And then they define quiet work hours as through the night. Monday through Saturday, and then Sundays off only, and then no federal holidays. So therefore, we cannot mirror their work hours, because I do not think any of our residents would be very pleased with quiet work hours in the middle of the night. That's how we came up with trying to, and as I said, this is for the third as well as the other board after the fact. I tried to mirror it as closely as our landscaping and maintenance department works, which is 7 to 5. And I tried to mirror that with, for those people that are, that are not early risers, is defining the quiet work hours from 7 to 8 for unloading and loading of material and equipment, and 7 to 9 on the weekends.
Okay, so if the city working hours are longer than ours, why is this in here at all? Because ours are shorter. It's unnecessary. It's just another confusing statement.
No, it is necessary.
And if I may, the different working hours occur, like, for example, on a Saturday, which is not a regular work day for the city. Well, we allow work to take place on a Saturday if it requires city inspection. that needs to be coordinated with the city, whether that is leaving things open for them to observe the following workday, or to work out with them overtime hours for the inspector to come out to the site and do the inspection. So that's the reason why that statement is there.
And then the other thing I was going to add is that under the guideline of you can always have a more restricted code of enforcement, but you can't have less. So I can never. I was going to use a hands-free ticket analogy, but the bottom line is that if we don't document what the contractors can and cannot do, they'll do whatever they want. And I've had several residents that, at 3 p.m., I've gotten security phone calls and requests for the contractors to stop working because they want them to be done at 3 p.m. So it should be documented in some fashion of proper, appropriate work hours. On number 2, on your cul-de-sac dumpsters, the idea is to get the contractor, as I said earlier, if we don't give them clear direction and put parameters around their work, they'll dump a dumpster anywhere and they'll put their work and they'll put their staging area anywhere. Go ahead, Ira.
No, what I was saying real quick is that when you talk about staging areas, great, but just say that it must be requested up front. Where did I put my notes? Rather than the way you have it worded, the first thing is they need to request it. Then you assign a location and size. Then you give them the rules for the area. You don't need to talk about the rules if they're not going to be bothered with it. If they don't need a staging area, if they're going to use, let's say, the garage of somebody's place to store all their tools and materials and whatnot, this becomes a moot point. And I'm just looking for a little clarity rather than confusion for some people reading this and not having to read the whole thing if it doesn't apply to them. With regards to the dumpsters, so where would you put it in a cul-de-sac? I mean, if it's not allowed, where would you put it?
They've previously been typically in the entrance, well, if going from right to left, going in the entrance of the cul-de-sac, not in the center of the cul-de-sac.
So you're expecting them to haul all their garbage from one end of the street to the other on a daily basis?
I'm going to refer, as a current licensed contractor, having done this for my entire life, I will refrain from my personal opinion. I'm just doing what was advised from the board. And as you had stated with the work hours as well as the staging area, I've actually rewritten staging area. I think I'm on my 6th revision. Every time I've written it, everybody's had a different viewpoint of it, as we all have a subjective opinion to it. So I'm not opposed to however you guys want it written, just as long as the board agrees on how you want it written, I'll write it exactly that manner.
Yeah. Because let's say for the dumpster part, in my case, my contractor opted to bag and take out on a daily basis. So then I got static from a neighbor from security because they had a truck there and they're going back and forth with bags, and many times dozens of bags of debris, rather than, because there was no place for a dumpster, rather than hauling them down the street, which would have taken even longer.
And my stance would have been that he was bagging and tagging and containing hazardous material appropriately, and I would have been fine with that.
It wasn't even hazardous. Yeah, we're talking about, other
but-
building materials that were taken down, wood and so on.
So it sounds like your question is about the fact that dumpsters cannot be in cul-de-sacs, the way this is worded.
Yeah,
and
I think that's a problem.
Right. So would the board like me? I personally don't have an issue with that. I know our parking is a scarcity, and so having the contractors park in assigned parking or putting dumpsters in assigned parking I personally don't have an issue. If the resident wants to give up their parking spot for the dumpster, I don't have a problem with that either. But, I'm on those kind of instances, I'm really here to serve the residents and how you guys want it written that you think is in the best interest of the community.
There may be possibility of accommodating, like Home Depot and Lowe's and whatnot. They have those small half-size, quarter-size, soft bags. Even Waste Management has them that take up less space. They get picked up more often, and simply because they're smaller, would be an option to write in here as to be able to use those. It's in some designated location. That would make alterations happy, that would make the contractor happy, that would not intrude too much. Any kind of construction is going to intrude, on neighbors. I mean, that's just how it is.
Manner alterations, we have no emotions. We just go through the process. So as long as it's with the residents, and I agree with you. It is, as we talked about staging areas and allowing contractors to park and unload with their hazard-ons, it's a trek to get to some of the manors in order for them to get work. And, and the idea is to be able to get the contractor in there to do the work and get him out of there in an expeditious fashion. I'm not opposed to rewriting it and having you guys re-review it. It's up to you guys.
Would you be happy with dumpsters may not be placed in cul-de-sacs or parking spaces unless approved by manner alterations?
That would help, but we need some kind of addition for those smaller Waste Management supplied dumpsters, if you will, or mini dumpsters. I'm not sure. I don't remember what they're called. There's a term for them, but I don't remember what it is.
There's 3 tons, there's low boys, there's plenty. They have a nickname.
But you know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm referring to.
Okay.
And the music thing, to me, that's a little overreaching. But if somebody's playing music inside their own unit and it's not excessively loud, I don't see any issue with that, whether it's my radio or my contractor's radio. I don't see any, as long as it's not causing a nuisance or a disturbance. Why the rule against it?
Well, I would love to do your remodel if you're going to let us play music. However, it's an OSHA violation because when there's loud music or any music at any decibel level and contractors can't communicate in a state of emergency, it can create harm in an unsafe environment. That's why it's there. It's an OSHA law. Yeah.
Fine.
Mark,
Yes, Kush?
I have 2 things to talk about. One is the dumpster thing is when people move and they have this moving container, so when that arrives, they need to arrange with security to ask where to put that container because it usually stays overnight or 2 days before it goes away. So that could be an option to ask for security to tell them where to put the dumpster. That is one. The other is our quiet time is, say, from 7 to 8. Does this time also applies to our staff working, like landscaping? Are they allowed to come and mow and blow between 7 and 8?
So I think Siobhan has a response to that because I had asked her a similar question.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was asked to kind of investigate why staff has different hours than the specified hours in the standard. And what I've learned is that this is a longstanding practice that predates VMS, and it's based on employee safety, particularly for our landscaping and general services personnel. If we move the start time later, this would create at least 2 problems. One would be that it would result in staff finishing work in the field in dusk hours during the winter, creating a potentially hazardous situation. And 2, in the summer months, crews would have to complete more of their labor in the heat of the day, reducing productivity and increasing the likelihood of sun-related, heat-related illness.
Good. I was actually going to suggest that we put an exception for our staff because of the heat I noticed this morning when they were mowing and blowing between 7 and 8. It was already hot. And the later they work, it's not really helpful for them to be in that heat.
Correct.
Yes, so
Thank you.
I wanted to make sure that we put something in the standard, otherwise we'll constantly be getting objections from the residents about the staff making a noise between 7 and 8.
Okay.
Yeah.
We can look at that or talk about it.
Yes.
Yeah, so I mean, that's, I don't know how other board members feel about that. Do we need to add something in this thing that mentions that staff has an exception to these hours?
That's why we are here.
I know, that's why I'm asking. I don't think it's necessary. You think it would be helpful? I'm just opening it up to others.
Mark, we are here for the next few years. After we move, the standards are going to remain, and then somebody will question it, but nothing will be there in writing. So it will again be a issue, and somebody will change this upside down to. So I'm only doing this in the benefit of our staff.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know.
How do you feel about that?
Anybody have issues with adding some kind of statement to this about staff is accepted? They can start making noise at 7 a.m.? Yes, Andy?
Would that be an amendment to what we have?
It'd be something, it'd be a change to this document. Yes, he's asking it to
And what
be.
effect will that have on passing the resolution? Is that enough to stop the resolution?
Probably not. I don't know if that's a significant change since it's just a clarification.
I would think not, because it is what we do presently.
Right, yeah, so
Okay,
just.
all right, that's what I need, thank you.
All right. Don?
Yeah, I might just suggest if it's felt that there should be a phrase such as that it merely state, except for staff who would work according to staff hours. Because the minute you put a time in,
Sure.
then staff time changes for whatever reason, you got to change the whole resolution.
And I
So
was-
staff works staff hours.
And I was going to add, we have GRF facilities that are cleaned even earlier than that because they're away from residences. So I like that amendment. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I wanted. I didn't want any timing to be in there, but the exception be entered. Yeah.
Okay. I had some comments, more spelling type of things. 1.5, parking, very first sentence is missing a closing parentheses at the end of the sentence. You mentioned in 1.5 as well, open residence spaces. What does that mean?
Open residence spaces, as I interpreted it, was unassigned spaces.
Okay.
I doubt we have.
Because those could be open, those could be guest space, I was reading going, what, is it a guest space? And Ralph, I see your hand up, so we'll get to you in a minute. Is that a same as a guest space? Just wasn't sure if that meant something. And also, then a few lines down on same 1.5, it says contractors or other invitees must park on the street. Okay. But I would say unless, kind of the same thing that's in parentheses, unless the member has given the contractor, written permission to park in their spaces, that kind of thing. I notice on these parking dumpsters that wood, boards, and plywood shall be placed under them. That's intended to be under dumpsters? This is on above 1.8?
Yeah, that's so the wheels don't leave holes in the asphalt, as you guys have witnessed all of the reslurring that we do on a constant basis.
What was that, Ralph?
It needed to be clarified then, it should say under the wheels. I also have a comment about placement of dumpsters.
Okay. Yeah, I think I've seen plenty of dumpsters without that, so I was just wondering, now that I know it's a rule, or will be, since it's, I think, an addition here. So Ralph, you said you had some further comments or questions?
Yeah, I have a comment on the parking of the dumpsters rather than the cul-de-sac. Not all cul-de-sacs are short. I live at the end of one. It's about 2 football fields long. And there's a lot of curb parking. There's also 6 designated visitor parking spots. We hate to see them go, but you can park. You don't have to park at the entrance of that long cul-de-sac. That is something that needs to be considered. That's probably cul-de-sac 339, I think is what it is. But some of the cul-de-sacs are a lot longer and or would be very inconvenient to park your dumpster at the opening.
Okay, okay. And, so did we decide, I don't know, to add, contractors, dumpsters are not allowed in cul-de-sacs or parking spaces unless approved by security or manner alterations? To help, resolve that for you, Ralph? And I think,
Something like that, and the only people that would complain about it are the guys that drive these big garbage dumping trucks.
okay,
But otherwise, anybody else would be able to get through even with the curb parking.
okay. All right, got it, okay. Any more questions, comments on this? Do we have any member comments?
Yes, we have one that was emailed in from Marianne Pratt, and they stated, I understand that there is going to be noise associated with construction. I don't have a problem with that. However, I don't want to have their music or talk radios forced on me, which happens frequently. I don't know if it's because more people are having work done or if the individuals hired just don't care. When I managed Park Wilson HOA, I had anyone performing work sign a statement that they understood that from the moment they drove onto the grounds that their car sound system and or portable sound systems were to remain off. And that is all.
Okay, thanks. I think we are including that. The audio device is not allowed. All right. Any other questions, comments? Are we ready to vote on whether or not to proceed with this with these changes that have been identified? Ralph, your hand is still up. Does that, yet you're on mute. Did you just leave your hand up?
Sorry about that.
No problem. No problem. I know it's tough. Good to hear your voice.
So we are approving this with amendments.
Right.
Ralph, if you could provide your vote. Thank you.
Yes, for me.
Yeah. And mine is yes, mine is still a little wonky.
Thank you, Donna.
And just for clarification, the reason I'm voting no on these last two is I don't like to vote on finalizing things with amendments that I haven't seen. I would love to have them back so we can see them again before we finalize them, because it's we made some of these comments last month and they weren't incorporated the way we were expecting them, so it's unclear to me that the comments that we're making today are going to be incorporated correctly.
Isn't this going on a 28-day approval?
No,
it's not.
no, it's
Oh,
past
this is the
that.
final.
This is the final. So it's final. We're assuming staff is going to do that. Now, I will circle back with staff and make sure that they're what I expect since they're passing. But I just wanted to let you all know that it's nothing nefarious or anything like that. It's just I've been uncomfortable voting for something that I don't know exactly what it's going to be. So that was a 810.
That was, let me double check, 7-1.
So somebody didn't vote then? Oh, Ira's out.
Yes.
Yes. Sorry, I forgot about that Ira fellow. Yeah. Thank you. All right, moving on to agenda item 12C is for the board to entertain a motion to approve updates to Third's leasing and rental policy. These updates were suggested by the Resident Policy and Compliance Committee and were made as a result of recent state law changes regarding the renting of rooms in the state's effort to help resolve the state's homeless crisis. Last month, this board approved these changes for 28-day member review and comment, so today we'll be voting as to whether or not to approve this updated policy for implementation. Chris, could you read the resolution for us?
Yes, lease rental authorization policy and application. Whereas Civil Code Section 4739 of the Davis-Sterling Act, effective January 1, 2023, provides that owners of a separate interest in a common interest development shall not be subject to any provision in the governing documents that prohibit an owner from renting or leasing out a portion of an owner-occupied unit for a period of more than 30 days, i.e. owners of a separate interest in the mutual are permitted to rent or lease out a portion of the owner-occupied unit to a tenant, so long as that lease term is for a period of more than 30 days, and the mutual need not allow owners of a separate interest to rent a portion of the owner-occupied unit to a tenant for a lease term of a period of less than 30 days. And whereas the third mutual board recognizes the need to amend its lease authorization policy and application to align with the new law. Now therefore be it resolved July 18, 2023, that the Board of Directors of this corporation hereby approves and adopts the revised lease rental authorization policy and application as attached to the official minutes of this meeting, and resolve further that Resolution 03-21-04 adopted January 19, 2021 is hereby superseded in its entirety and canceled, and resolve further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of the corporation to carry out the purpose of this resolution.
Thank you, Chris. That was a mouthful today. Can I get a motion to approve this updated policy before we discuss it further? Donna moves. I'll second. What the heck? Let me participate. Any questions, comments from members regarding this policy? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Any comments from any members? Okay. Ready to vote then? Okay. Hopefully it'll come up for you.
Thank you, Ralph.
Okay.
Okay. Nope. Still missing one. No, so Kush is out, stepped out, so it passes 7 unanimously here for the 7 here of us here. Thank you, board. Okay, we're going to move on to agenda item 13, which is new business. Agenda item 13A is for the board to entertain a motion to approve a revision of architectural standards 42 for ramps. These updates were suggested by the ACSC, and today we'll be voting as to whether or not to submit this revised standard forward for 28-day member review and comment. Does staff have any opening comments for us before we make a motion and proceed with it? Okay, I guess not, since Mike's not jumping up to tell us about it. All right, can I get a motion to approve this revised standard for 28-day member review and comment? Donna moves, Andy seconds. Thank you both. Are there any questions for anybody? All right, I have some. So Mike, are you going to speak to this one for us?
Did you want to, 13A, you want me to go back to, or 13B for the garage door?
We're in 13A for ramps. It looks like the only option is a cement ramp. Is that correct?
Yes, so under the architectural ramps, as we all know, this community was built as an active retirement community in the 60s and 70s and didn't adhere to some of the standards. So the concrete ramp, we have to adhere to what the city and code for ADA ramps would be, which requires us to allow a ramp to every 12 inches, so every foot, it's only allowed to have 1 inch of slope.
So my question is concrete the only option? We can't put in anything else? Metal, for instance. I mean, there are metal ramps and things.
You can, as long as the metal ramps meet the code, yeah, you can go to it. But
I mean,
well, let me give you an example.
I don't know that I need one. I'm looking at this similarly to some of the forward-looking standards that we had implemented in the past, which was rather than say concrete is the only option, which is effectively today it does, is to say it can be whatever is appropriate per current state, city, local codes, that type of thing. So I would think that wording would be more appropriate. That's
Okay.
That was my only comment. I don't know if anybody else has any questions or comments. Okay. Any member comments that you're aware of, Paul? Okay. Okay, time to vote? You guys okay to vote for what? And we'll be voting as to whether to submit this for 28-day member review and comment with this potential change, which is making it a little more generic. Yeah.
So the material doesn't need to be just the cement, right?
That's right.
Yeah, okay.
Question.
Yes, Ralph?
I think what you're interested in more than anything on a ramp is how slippery it is. So something stating whether it's, I saw that one thing in there, that concrete had to be textured. If you use anything else, there has to be some way to make it non-skid as much as possible.
Yeah.
I would hope that would be part of that state, city, local requirement.
What I have written down on my notes is, or any additional exterior ramp that meets code.
Can't hear you.
That would require the code.
Okay. Okay.
Which one is this?
We're voting on 13A.
Donna, what's your vote? Okay, thank you.
Mine is still not
Sorry, thank you.
behaving.
1, 2, 3. Okay, so 7. Okay. All right. So same reason I'm voting no. I'm worried that next month when we get it back for the final review, it won't be what I thought we just agreed on. So I'm going to start, if we have these types of changes, I'm going to just let you know, I'm going to be tending to vote no. Requesting a clean copy back before we put it on 28-day review. And
In this case, I thought we were very specific about the wording, so in fact, if that was written down, it should come back that way.
I would hope so.
I mean, it
I would
should
hope
come
so.
back. We
But,
said it has
but
to
then,
say in accordance with
the
current code.
materials,
So I would think it would be okay.
I would hope so. But I'm more just putting staff on notice that it needs to come back to what we say, and then, okay. So this was a 6-1, 7-1, I can't, 7-1? All right, thanks. All right. Now moving on to agenda item 13B, for the board to entertain a motion to approve a revision of Architectural Standard 16 for garage doors, both sectional and one piece. These updates were also suggested by the ACSC, and today we'll be voting as to whether or not to submit this revised standard forward for 28-day member review and comment. I don't know that, can I get a motion to approve this revised standard for 28 days? So Chris moves, Donna seconds. Thank you both. Any questions, comments on this one from anyone? Okay, I do. Kind of still the same comment. We added, sorry, I'm looking at my notes. We added in 2.4, it can be made of aluminum, steel. We added fiberglass. Again, what if they're a composite next week comes out that works fine, meets city, state code standards, for fire safety or whatever, why can't 2.4 reflect that? That makes sense, Michael?
Yep.
Okay. And just for clarification, these replacing garage doors considered an alteration, correct?
Yes, they are.
Okay. We'll see if it's in the alterations new fee schedule. Okay. All right.
I have a question.
Yes, Kush, thank you.
So if the garage door is considered to be an alteration, means replacement, would a garage door opener be considered an alteration too?
An electric opener, you're talking about adding an electric opener for your garage door?
Yes.
Okay.
But, yeah.
Okay.
That, and also if you have one where the motor breaks down and you have to replace it.
Well, okay, so if it's existing, it's just it's a replacing like or as. You're just
Like for like,
Yeah,
or
for
like for whatever latest technology.
Correct. And so I can't comment to whether the city needs a permit or that. I don't know that they do. However, as far as we're concerned, no, you're swapping like for like. So that would be under the mutual consentless process, I think we believe we call it. You wouldn't need a consent for it, no, sir.
Do you know if, when these units were originally built, there were electric garage door openers?
I do not know that.
Okay.
I can check it.
Some of them do not have electric openers.
Okay.
And some do, because they have sort of one that flips
Okay.
manually.
Okay.
So that person putting in track and an electric opener would be making some changes apparently. But if you have an electric opener and the motor burns out and you put a different one back in, that would appear to be like for like.
Yeah, I was just wondering, I'm assuming, maybe incorrectly, that all electric openers are an alteration somewhere along the line. I'm guessing that originally when they were built, they weren't. But I don't know, that's why I asked.
Certain models, I guess, were with the garage door openers and the motors.
And back in 1980? Back in 1980, you think they did that?
Possible.
These guys that used the thinnest copper possible for their pipes, they put in electric garage door openers? That's just how I'm making my assumption.
We're
that
just
they seem
assuming
to be
that,
on the
but
cheap.
still it's possible because I just had an experience with, what we call a six-pack building, where there are 3 garages on
one side,
either
right?
side.
Right.
The reason why I noticed is that the electrical supply to the garage is in your electrical box in your unit.
Okay.
So if it was not plumbed in that way, it would not be possible that way. So the electrical comes from your unit and you pay for the electricity. So, and it's pretty far.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because if the unit C is on this side, the garage is on that side,
Right.
it's a long way for the wires to travel.
Okay.
Yeah. So it is probably before they already had the garage door open.
Did you get your question answered?
Not exactly, but I assume he says simple word, yes or no.
If it's
Not a long sentence.
There's never a simple answer with all the standards and regulations.
Yeah.
If somebody's already replaced the garage door opener, and so it's been documented as an alteration, and it's replaced now, that's a like-for-like replacement, and so you wouldn't need to document it. If the individual does not have a garage door, because it never had a garage door opener, that would be an alteration, and it would need to be documented.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments?
No, not for me.
Okay. Are we ready to vote on 13B, garage door? And again, we'll be voting to submit this forward. Sorry, Michaela, I'm assuming we don't have any resident comments on 13B? Okay, forgot to ask that. So we're going to be voting as to whether to submit this revised garage door standard forward for 28-day member review and comment.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, and I have yours, Ralph. Thank you.
Okay. 7-1, I again voted no. Moving on to agenda item 13C is for the board to entertain a motion to approve a new contractor violation policy. These updates were suggested by the ACSC, and today we'll be voting as to whether or not to submit this new policy forward for 28-day member review and comment. Can I get a motion to approve this policy forward for 28 days. So Kush moves, Chris seconds. Thank you both. Any questions or comments from anyone on this? I'll go then. I really dislike this policy. I will be voting no, not because of wording changes. I mean, to me, it gives too much control to the manor alterations organization, which frankly has been known to make its own set of mistakes and give out confusing information to members and contradictory information to members. Several of our board members have experienced that. This came up, I don't know if some of the board members remember this. This came up in late 2021 to the board. We kicked it back. It came back in early 2022. We kicked it back for various reasons, but one of them being it's a convoluted process. Manor alterations can stop the work of a contractor. So if a contractor is doing something, the manor alterations can make a decision that contractor needs to stop work immediately. Whether or not they do it, they have that ability to do that with this policy. And what does that mean for the person whose renovation is happening? I don't like it. So sorry Ira's not here with me, because I have a feeling he wouldn't either. Kind of a guilty until determined innocent type of thing. If you get your work stopped and want to appeal that to the ACSC, you can't continue work until the ACSC has a hearing. So that's where I come from. Yes, Don?
Yeah, I'm confused only in that there's a sentence here that speaks to Third's attorney's opinion. And is that right? That was Third's attorney advises limiting the course of action against contractors to suspension or total exclusion from work in Third if the contractor has a proven track record justifying such action. I wasn't aware that there had been that discussion with
Not
legal.
the current Third attorney, but definitely.
Well, and I think that's it. So which, and that's my concern, is
Okay.
which attorney? Because in fact, if our current attorney said you should have such a policy, I would want to know that.
Okay.
So perhaps we can, that to me is really important, especially since there could be all kinds of litigation if this were improperly utilized. So that's-
Okay. Yes, Andy?
Your comment about the work stoppage upon notice. We did talk about giving adequate notice to the contractor. There were some problems because you could leave a notice out there, and they claim, and maybe rightly, that they didn't see it. So that's one thing, proper notice. Some violations could be really serious, and I'm just wondering if it's the kind of thing that's dangerous to health. Something they're doing is damaging enough that it needs to be halted. How do you feel about that?
It depends. To me, chances are the damage has already been done. So let's say in asbestos, somebody didn't follow the asbestos rule and started ripping up drywall and creating a hazard. By the time we found that out and put a stop to it, probably too late. May not be. I mean, you may only got one room and the person's planning on doing other rooms. I would expect that if we told that person not to do it, they wouldn't just go do the other rooms anyway, but that's me. Ira, welcome back. We're on the 13C, which is the contractor violation policy. I'd feel better perhaps if the board was more involved in making a stoppage decision versus the manor alterations team, the board or the committee, as an example. The committee's available. They can always be called from an emergency meeting if need be to handle such a situation. So Moon, you had some question or comment?
Yeah, our responsibility should be for the resident hired contract. When they're suspended or whatever severely punished, it's their livelihood we're talking about. I think a certain committee or BMS has a right to suspend their livelihood is too much to me. It should be, if it is severe, they should recommend it to the board as a whole. We have to have the right consider the severity, and we have to have the ultimate right and the final saying on it. I don't like to have anybody else have a saying on the final, their livelihood and the resident intention and all that. It is, when repeated violation, they need to be the curtailed and all that, but still I like to have as a whole, as a committee, have the saying on it instead of somebody else.
Thanks. Hey, Ira, you have any comments on
Yes,
this
I
policy?
do. Right on the first page, basically, I feel about the whole thing here is just adding another layer to rules that we already have. It's not our responsibility necessarily to play inspector with everybody. And as you say, with this, it's not going to cost you any time. I'm sorry, I can't believe that. But what you're stating is that, in general, that the rules and obligations laid out to both the homeowner and the contractor are not clear, and that's why you need this. That's how I read it. And if that's the case, we need to lay out more clearly in bold print the obligations and the responsibilities and the rules for both parties meaning the resident, the homeowner, and the contractor, and that we do have penalties, if you want to call them that, in place already. We can right now not allow a contractor to do any more work here because of violations. So why do we need another separate policy? That's what I'm getting at, is that if you think it's not being clear enough, then you need to make it clearer up front. And I do have a lot of other things that I don't like about this, but that's what it boils down to
Yeah,
for
but
me.
let me interject for a moment. I've been here 5 months. I don't know how long this has been here, and I can tell you, as a contractor, this is a joke. Okay, I didn't want to give my opinion, but I'll give you guys my opinion. So you should round file the whole thing. Literally just be done with it. Because all you need from your contractor is what Davis Sterling says. You need to have insurance, you need to have your car insured, and you need to be a valid contractor. Follow those rules. Your homeowner takes all that responsibility. Where this got so down the path of, oh, wow, I'm with you guys. I just inherited this stuff. They tell me to submit it, and I'm looking at it, and that's why the first thing I did when I got here, and I know Mark's laughing because I said, why in the heck are we even doing the asbestos report? Why are you guys waiting 6 weeks to approve this for the residents? It's not our job. Our job is just to make sure that if you're supposed to have a white, brown, blue, or green door, that you put a white, blue, brown, or green door on there. And if you want your garage door to be fiberglass and not aluminum, have at it, as long as it works. And the color's the right color for you guys. I'm good with it. I don't know where this all came from. I don't know because, but I can tell you since I've been here, I've got residents that at 3:01 are going nuts because the contractor didn't load up his tools, right? And it very clearly says, hey, the guy, he gets an hour to put his stuff away. So I don't know. I'm open to suggestions. I'm with you guys. This is not how it should be done. We should be literally having a town hall, having contractors come in, introducing contractors to your residents so you guys could actually get a good list of contractors, which we're not even allowed to have. right?
No, that
so
would-
you know,
I'm not blaming you, Michael.
No,
I'm really not.
trust me, you guys know I stand up here all the time and take a beating on this
No,
stuff.
no,
Like, it's like,
I'm
you know,
not.
what
I'm just against another layer of
Oh, agreed.
Foolishness.
Agreed. Your contractor should just be, as it states, he should just be licensed and in good standing and have the proper insurance so that he can, and then under those premises, he should know how to do his job correctly. And then the resident, you know.
And we do submit rules to them, I know you do, and, you know, work hours, you know, and certain parameters. There's no reason for this.
Hey, if we could just do a list of 5 things, because anything more than 5 is too many, right? And do it. So, you know, I'm with you guys. If you know, if you'd like me to scrap the whole thing and literally just do, hey, this is simply what I think it should be, as, you know, it's like I said, I told somebody in the hallway, you know, I was licensed 2 years before I was even born. I built my first house when I was 3 years old on my dad's lap on a tractor. I've been doing it a while, and this is, we need to get back to the methodology of yes, not no.
So I'm going to ask one other thing, and then at the contractor forum, was the question ever asked to the contractors, do you have enough information from us?
So if you speak to any of the contractors, they know that they actually have they have my cell phone, they call me directly, and they know exactly what they can and cannot do. And you'll get the feedback is, I'll tell you straight up that with Mr. Horton in there, that guy's like, just get it done. I come from Texas, let's get her done. But let's, you know, if we're all in this room, we're not getting, you know, well, in this case, we're getting things done. But if my contractors are in my office filling out paperwork, they're not building stuff. They're not getting things done, and they're not making money. And that's what they're there to do.
Because for me, I'd like to see the suggestions for improvement, not all of them, obviously, but many of them come from these contractor forums to be able to adjust the rules, adjust this, adjust that, because the understanding, you have understanding, but the next person in your place may not, as to what goes on in a job, at a job site, what a contractor needs to have, and what rules are ridiculous and what rules are not, and, you know, are necessary. And that's where I'd like to see the process go. And yes, I'm going to vote to throw this away.
All right, any other questions? Moon?
First of all, I think this is a micromanagement extreme. Second one is if we give a small group of people to the right or the power to limit somebody else's livelihood, that's too much. And then I can see that a lot of hanky-panky may be going on because of that. So I think if we have any power we're going to give it to, it should be this bold, not for somebody else.
Good. Any other questions, comments? Yes, Andy?
I just want an assurance that if there's a dangerous situation that occurs, how do you stop it? Let's say that asbestos removal, they're really sloppy with the bags. I mean, you know, it's just not done right, or something like a ladder hitting a wire or something that's dangerous. How do you stop it?
So okay, so a couple different things. With the AQMD and the asbestos, yeah, that's dangerous. And so the idea is that if any resident sees something being mishandled, it needs to be addressed immediately because that's a contaminant. As far as a wire being hit, the nice thing is, well, nice and bad, but code enforcement cruises through our neighborhood all the time, which is the city, to make sure that a contractor is licensed, that he has his proper permit, and they're doing things correctly.
So, I mean, there could be a situation where security would say, stop. You know, just stop.
Right.
We think this is, whatever it is, it's dangerous. So, and that's a temporary kind of thing.
So I will say this. I've actually had this conversation because we have former law enforcement that works here. And, you know, in the 70s and 80s, we had a great thing called officer's discretion, where a police officer was allowed to look at a situation and use his personal discretion and say, you know what, just don't do that. Okay, we've moved away from that. And now it's gotten to just very black and white. And if it's a code violation, it has to be documented. You can't use your discretion. And so I'm open to suggestions on how to get back to that area so that we can get contractors working correctly and getting them following the rules correctly. I also believe that if we make it easier for our manor owners, that they'll follow directions. They'll actually use a licensed contractor and pull a permit as they should, instead of trying to circumvent procedures if we make it easier.
Okay, all right,
yeah.
thank you. All right.
Anything else, Kush?
Look, as much as I don't like all the enforcement and the rules and all the different controls, we got to this point because many people hired fly-by-night kind of workers without contractor licenses, and they did many things that were imperfect, for a better word I don't have, which caused plumbing problems, leaks in 3-story buildings, where all that kind of stuff. So controls. Also, the asbestos was an issue at one time, where somebody threw all the debris in the doorway and stepped over it and walked all over the building. So this is why we need to have some kind of a control on who can perform the renovation or alteration or whatever contractor-related work is, instead of a handyman of some sort. So that is where the problem starts, and then we come to the violation. So I don't know if the chicken comes before the car, or the horse comes before the cart, or what. So we need to think about that and then work on the violation. So control that, and you will not have violations. So you understand what I mean?
What I heard you say there is to move back towards where we used to have an approved contractors list, because if we have an
No, I didn't say that. We need to educate our residents to be mindful of who they hire to do the work. They might want to save a few pennies, but they will end up in a much bigger expense because of all the fines or whatever that comes with it, or the insurance costs.
There's a saying in construction, the cheapest contractor will always cost you the most.
So that's what I mean. We need to have that kind of that should be the mantra of telling people to select the proper person to do the job. That's where the problem is.
Can I call for a vote on this?
Sure, yes, please. I think we were just getting there. I don't imagine we have any member comments, just to be clear. Okay, so the request is a call to vote. So we're voting as to whether to submit this new policy forward for 28-day member review and comment. No, we'll try to go slow. What was it? No? No. Then I
Okay,
think
thank you,
I
Moon.
think it'll fail, so it doesn't matter. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're missing.
And then
let's-
Donna stepped out, so I'll mark her as absent
Okay.
for
And
the
I
vote.
think she had mentioned that she would be voting no if
Oh,
she could, so
right.
we're gonna, so this failed unanimously with us. So thank you, board. I think that's the right call on this one. And don't go too far, Michael. We're moving on to agenda item 13D, which is for the board to entertain a motion to approve the revision to the alteration fee schedule. These updates also suggested by the ACSC, and today we'll be voting as to whether or not to submit these revised fee schedule forward for 28-day member review and approval. Can I get a motion to approve this revised alteration fee schedule? Chris moves. Ira seconds reluctantly or something. Any questions, comments?
Yes. Okay, I'm full of them today, Michael. Simply put, I'd like to see this not to be a resolution. I would like this to be an appendix, a schedule is fine, call it what you will, but reference this schedule in other documents, other policies that we make. That way, we don't have to go through the 28-day approval process. It can come to the board, you need to make a change, you want to lower the rates, great. We don't have to wait 60 days for people to save money. We can do it right away because...
Was that your phone? Oh, yes, never mind.
I don't know, what was that?
That may be Ralph. Is Ralph on mute?
So,
Now
and
he is.
anything, you see where I'm going. It's just put in any resolution that needs these pricings, please refer to Appendix A or Schedule B or whatever the case may be, whatever you want to call it. That way, the schedule can change independently of the policy.
Okay.
And we can, things can go up, things can go down, things can go sideways, and we don't have to go through this long process of reviewing 28 days, reviewing 28 days, reviewing. We can get it done.
I would love to be able to push the easy button. And I did want to point out, though, on this, as you guys were looking at this one I like, because if you see what I've done in red, I've taken the things out of the fee schedule of being charged a percentage of the cost of the job and moved them into the area where it's just a simple $50 processing fee, which is under the roots of what we were talking about to make things easier for the residents. And, when you're swapping out things, because when you look at a sliding door that's a retrofit, that's just taking, you're just taking out the glass sliders and putting a new one in. It shouldn't have been a $350 or $450 fee. It should be a $50, like, let me fill out the paperwork for it.
Right.
And that's what the things are in the red.
And everybody does appreciate that, Michael. I mean, everybody.
I was trying to get a win, Ira.
No, it's a positive thing, but I'm trying to help you even more. To make these adjustments like you have done, they can reflect in the community faster if it's not in a policy, but if it's in an attached schedule that can be independently changed as necessary. So we can reduce things when we find efficiencies, and then when we find a bump in the road, okay, it can be changed as well. But that's what I'm getting at.
Okay, no, and I like that because, I have to go through Third and United, and then there, as you said, that would be a 60-day period for something that we're trying to pass to the resident immediately for an easier use and less fees. And then, because I didn't change any of the numbers, I just moved product lines where they really belong. And then,
and that's great. And I applaud you for that.
Because we know a glass door was like $800 about a decade ago, and now they're more like $3,500, which would have put us in the top rung under this current pricing. So I just, I just said, no, if you got a $30,000 remodel, then that's, more appropriate. But I didn't change the prices on it. So if I can look into a way, if we'd like to table this, so I can put them together with United and see if there's a way to make it happen that way, I would agree with that.
I'm going to guess United would be happy because it really doesn't change the numbers per se,
it just,
or their effectiveness. It just changes the ability to get it to the consumer quicker, and I think everybody's happy about that, and less paperwork and time in this room.
It's safe to say if I'm saving the residents money, we could get there quicker. If it's costing you
So
money.
I think we got the idea. Anybody disagree with that concept? That is also something that our current lawyer has recommended, that fees be taken out of resolutions, and this is true for 13E as well. But have the fees in a fee schedule that gets emailed or mailed out yearly and that kind of thing, so that people are aware of it. So SK and then Moon.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea, but where to? And the second question is, that's the first question. The second question is United the same way or different?
So first question, where to?
Where to attach it? Where do?
There's I think there's a fee schedule that exists. Yeah, for
which documentation? I guess that's what.
Part of this is already online, or what used to be.
Yeah, I think we probably can find it. It's got mailed, should have gotten mailed to you at the end of last year. It's,
And it's
fees,
also-
there's monetary fine fees, there's other
Okay.
fees. And you know, sorry, but in this case, I don't really care what United's doing. I mean, hopefully they'll follow us, but I don't want to follow them and do what I think is the wrong thing for Third. Hopefully Michael can convince them that what
Okay.
we're suggesting is the right thing for all of us. But that's my feedback, sorry. Now, Moon, you said you had a question or comment?
I'm concurring that Ira has a really great point. And, but I want to have some kind of limit, let's say, 10 grand, 20 grand, or 5 grand. And above that, maybe bring it back to the board and we can discuss it. Other than that, uniformly United and us and just get it done that way.
Yeah, so the fees would still be approved by the board. They just wouldn't require a 28-day member
Yeah.
review and comment on an ongoing basis because that gets burdensome after a while. Anybody have any questions? Sorry, Andy, but I'll also ask for you to think about it. Do you have any questions, comments about the fees themselves? Because that was also part of this. But yes, Andy?
It's probably a tough one. Does Davis Sterling said, as Moon alluded to, as Dr. Moon alluded to, does Davis Sterling set any kind of benchmark or arbitrary hurdle that if the fee changes so much or whatever that you have to disclose it more? Yeah, I like this idea, just one master schedule, but if a fee, does Davis Sterling say anything about this?
Yeah, well, when fees are adjusted, they need to be approved by the governing body, and then they go out annually to the members as part of the fee schedule.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
the
on
only
the
fee
fee
I'm
schedule,
aware.
I personally I can't tell you that I've looked at it in detail, but is it clear on the fee schedule something has changed since last year? I mean, if you come out, how do people know that something changed?
Well, should be a date on the fee schedule that indicates that this is effective as of such and such a
Saying
date.
that it's effective.
But again, let me
Okay.
get all the information and I'll get back with you.
No, if there's no, I'm just a general question. If Davis Sterling is not real clear on this, then I don't have a problem with that.
I see no other hands. Unauthorized alteration fee is $300. Meaning if somebody does something they're not supposed to, they have to pay $300. To me, forget about the process behind it, Ira. I know you're smiling, but man, that's maybe insignificant. I mean, I may be looking at this too narrowly. Maybe that fee should be higher. To $300 these days is not as much as it was $300, and this hasn't changed for the past several years, and it's not changed as part of this. I just suggest we might want to up it to help make it more of a deterrent, but that's just me. That would just be a thought, and I'm going to throw that out. If we're going to choose to table this, and we haven't necessarily done that yet, that's something we can all think about, but that's just something that came to my mind. Yes?
We have a member who has a comment on Zoom, if I can let them in.
Sure.
Thank you. Elsie, you should be able to speak if you have a comment.
Oh, Elsie.
Well, she's on mute.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Ms. Addington.
Oh, great. I'm sorry this is a little bit late, but I had a little, never mind. This is about the contractor penalty thing that you were just talking about and voted on.
Yes.
And it's just a comment, okay? I was involved in manor alterations when this all was going through. And the biggest problem with it, and I'm sure you can tell by reading it, is talk about written by committee. It was what's that old joke about the elephant being built by a committee or something? It was, oh my God, just to get it passed through, and I'm sure most of you have been through this kind of experience. We had a couple of directors that are no longer active in the directing community, who just, some were totally against it, but they wanted it written in a certain way, and then others were totally for it, and it wasn't written in a vacuum. Like somebody else mentioned just recently in this meeting, we had a lot of really egregious, even with our current, at that time, current program of, yeah, we could keep people from working here anymore, but what was happening in between, and the residents were screaming, and some contractors were just walking away from jobs and leaving the residents just with no choice but to proceed for 2 and 3 times the amount of money that they had originally paid the contractor. And the good contractors, well, I shouldn't say good, but the non-offending contractors were in on it too, because it made contractors look bad. So that was the reasoning behind the creation of that, because we didn't even used to have one. But then it just got, no, I won't sign off on this until you make that red instead of green. Seriously, on the form, that you got to change the color on the form. So I was involved in it. I won't apologize for it because I was there when it was made, but I know it's a mess. So I'm just encouraging you to proceed with something. But if you do, what I would suggest, is it Mike? I'm sorry, the fellow who's in charge of manor alterations now?
Yes.
Mike, is that you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, you sound like a real clear-cut kind of person. And what I would suggest is you and your staff get something together and then present it to, as opposed to, present it to the committee, and maybe that's what you have in mind. But, and as a contractor yourself, I think I just have great hopes for what you'll produce. But I really wouldn't get down in the weeds. Just don't let people get down in the weeds, because it went on for, we had special meetings and trying to get it to the board, and it just went on for a year. And it was just horrible, and I think the finished product reflects that. So that's all I wanted to say, to encourage you all to not let it go, but to just watch the weeds business. Because what difference does it make if something's red or green? And it would hold it up for another 6 months.
Good.
So,
Thank you.
That was it.
Okay,
Thanks.
thanks for your comments, appreciate them. Thanks. Okay. You more on the fee schedule?
Yeah, just another quick on the fee.
Okay.
So with regards to the unauthorized alteration fee, my personal feeling is that if something is noticed in the sale, it should be pulled out of escrow and not left to be done after the fact. And in the past, some things have been noted by the sales department to be fixed later, at a later date by the new owner. But I have strong feelings
Fair
against
enough, I'm gonna, yes.
Okay, stop.
We can work on the process. I've even taken a note based upon a discussion I had with another board member who
Yeah, and
was
Ira.
charged this fee inappropriately, so we'll work on that process.
And we can hold that comment, because the next 13E is going to be the revised resale fees, and and then that point of your question is going to be more applicable to address.
So we have a motion to approve this revised fee schedule for 28-day member review and comment. Do we want to keep that motion and vote on it? Or does whoever made the motion want to change their motion to table it as Mike suggests, or and per our discussion, or do you have a suggestion?
No, I made the motion.
Okay.
So I would like to amend my motion to table this
Okay.
for discussion at another time.
Okay. All right.
I second it.
Okay. All right. Anybody disagree with that? Okay, all right. Yeah, so I think, we're kind of kicking it back to the ACSC, but within line with diverging the resolution itself from the fees themselves. And again, same is probably going to be true for 13E. So moving on to 13E. Kind of a similar thing. This is the resale inspection fee. This even more so, if you look at the resolution itself, has the dollar amounts in it, where the other one was kind of an attached document. So, Chris, you have?
Sorry, can we go back to D?
Yes.
13D, can we vote on that?
We by consent, nobody had an issue with that. Just trying to.
You don't have to vote.
Pardon?
If you table it, you don't have to.
Oh, okay, okay. To me, there's a motion to table it, so I was okay with that. Okay. Okay. 13E, anybody want to make a similar motion? Or not, or any other motion that strikes their fancy?
I will move we table this as well.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay, so Donna moves. Does anybody have issues with that? Okay. Hopefully we'll see this again soon, Mike. I think these are good things to do. It looks like we're going in the right direction with both the revised alteration fee schedule as well as the resale inspection fee. So hopefully it won't be too long. Maybe next month. I think you're done. Okay. All right. Thank you, board, for getting us through old business and new business. We're now on to agenda item 14, where members of this board will share our monthly committee status updates, starting with a report of the Finance Committee.
Okay.
Donna, you're on.
All right, as soon as we can get those slides loaded. The first one we start with is just an overhead 30,000-foot view of all of our income, all of our expenses, and where we sit. And at the moment, we have a net revenue in the positive column of $2,765,000. So let's see where that came from and what it looks like. If we can move on to the next slide. What's really important, that everything's important, but the operating income statement is critical because those are the expenses we anticipate. That's this whole budget process we're going through now for next year to see how well we did. Did we allocate enough funds? This is really what very often affects our members' monthly assessment. And so what we have in the operating is our assessment revenue was almost $12 million. Non-assessment revenue, $873,000, and for a total of almost $13 million, with expenses of $11.6 million. So we do have an operating surplus in that operating area of $1.1 million. Moving on. Okay. This time, we look at the full income statement. It's kind of exactly, column one is just what you saw in the very first statement. Now let's look at it according to budget. And you can see that, not surprisingly, our assessment revenue is exactly what we anticipated, off by, it looks like, $1,000. And our non-assessment revenue was actually greater than anticipated for a total revenue of $18.5 million. Total against expenses of $15.8 million for a net revenue of $2.765 million. So we were better than budget, and now let's see where and why. If we can move on. This, as I've mentioned before, is my favorite slide because I love it when it's all green. And it mostly is. First, we have compensation and expenses related to that. This is favorable by $724,000, which is good. Unfortunately, most of it is primarily due to open positions, and we are working on that and hoping that will improve. Outside services is favorable. That really is primarily from the timing of waistline remediation, number one, And second, the timing of roof replacement. Waste line remediation is budgeted throughout the year. We anticipate it. We spread that money across every single month, but actually that remediation process didn't begin until June. And so we're favorable. By the end of the year, it's anticipated that we would equal that and zero it out. Similarly, the timing of roof replacement contributed to that variance because roof replacements didn't start work until later as well. You notice it says investment expense, but in this case, it was investment income of $225,000, favorable to budget. So the income was actually greater. It was the favorability that was very, very nice. And utilities, something that we've really been behind on most of the time. This time, it's looking good. We are favorable by $116,000. And the problem here is, although it's primarily favorable related to water and sewer, water was favorable nicely by 24.9%. It was almost 25% lower than anticipated. Conservation efforts in landscaping, as well as the work our residents are doing in cutting back on water, has been helping. Unfortunately, El Toro Water District has announced that they are going to be having a public hearing. We are looking forward to increased expenses, and so we will see what happens. That hearing will actually be a week from Thursday at 7 p.m., and we have a little bit of detail. We're hoping that someone will be at the Water Conservation Committee meeting next Thursday, a week from Thursday, to give us a little more background on it. But we're going to have to think very carefully about that, and we know the Finance Department is already working to include that in the budget and to consider that. And then miscellaneous revenue was the only area that was significantly adverse. It was $54,000 unfavorable, and really that was from fewer leases processed than anticipated and resale processing fees lower than anticipated because fewer units are on the market. So let's move on to the next slide. And here is where we can actually visually see the percentages. We find that our more than 50%, we have 61% of our non-assessment revenue comes from investment interest income, which this month actually surpassed chargeable services for the first time in a very, very, very long time. And our chargeable services, those are the two biggest areas. They do account for 61% of our non-assessment revenue. And then everything else beyond it to a much smaller degree, you can see as you move around: permit fees, lease processing fees, etc. So I hope this gives you a nice visual sense of where we are. It is important to know that our investment interest income is doing well. It is continuing to increase. We had anticipated and had budgeted for a 1.5% return because we do the budget a year in advance. And if you remember a year ago, interest rates were much lower. So that's something that's been looking very, very good. So let's move on to the very next slide, which is slide number 6. And these are, you can see, our biggest expense is employee compensation, and recalling from our earlier discussion, related expenses. This is benefits, it's vacation time, it's all kinds of things included in there. And following fairly close behind it at 23% of our total expenses is insurance, and we've had lots of discussions, and everyone, I hope, is aware that this is an ongoing issue that we'll be working on. But between the two of them, that's 56% of our total expenses, so something we have to think about. Outside services is 20% of our total expenses, but that's always balanced, again, what that work would be and where that would be if it were all employee compensation and related, because the work still has to get done. So altogether, we're looking at 83% of our total expenses related to work being done here and our insurance. And you can follow along on the pie chart for the rest of it. Let's move on to slide number 7. Here's where we look at our non-operating fund. Our first detailed report related to operating fund. Here are the non-operating funds. First, the replacement funds. This is really our reserve. And here, as we budget, we allocate what we anticipate. And we hope that at the end of the year, we have a little more there than we started with. And if you look, you will see that replacement funds, Garden Villa Fund, unappropriated expenditures, and we're all ahead. We are slightly lower in our disaster fund. That's because we had to use some of that for water intrusion. And so we're really looking quite good, but that's a nice breakdown for you. And if you move on to the next slide, you actually will see a bar chart that shows these same funds spread since 2019 and see how the balances are. You can see that our replacement funds balances have been growing over the past 5 years, and that's what we want. We have aging facilities. We're going to constantly be needing some work, and so we've allocated well. The disaster fund over the years has shrunk a bit, and primarily that's due to the fact that we no longer are considering total earthquake damage. We do have $10 million worth of earthquake insurance, so we don't have to keep it quite that high. And of course, we had water damage that was part of the disaster fund that we're taking care of this year. Unappropriate expenditures, that's the contingency fund, that's the rainy day fund, and we know it rained. So we're doing well at the end of the year or at the end of this month anyway, when we can stay equal. We're doing fine. And the very, very fine kind of olive green line across the top is Garden Villa Recreation Room Fund. It's a very small fund, but it's doing fine. It's holding its own, and we're still getting work done on those rec rooms. So with that concludes the major part of the financial report. If you look on slide number 9, our next one, this is just resale history. And as noted earlier, we've had fewer resales in this period, and the period being ending May 31st, than we had in the previous year. A lot of that apparently due to increasing interest rates. Fewer places have been put on the market. And our average resale price, it's something we've always given you. Our average resale price is going up, but in terms of figuring out what your home is worth, what your manor is worth, it's not a very helpful figure because periodically we'll have a month with several very, very large ticket homes, and that just throws it off. But certainly our prices are holding, our values appear to be holding, and that's what counts. And with that, that concludes the Finance Committee report.
Great, thank you, Donna. Next we have the ACSC. Chris? Nope, I'm sorry. We'll put you on hold for a second. Chris, I think Moon has a question or comment regarding the finance report. Sorry.
Page 5, at revenue is 1.2 million. Page 6, expense was 1.5 million. 17 million. Oh, it's a different number. Huh?
One is, page 5 is non-assessment revenue, and 6 is total expenses.
Total expense is 15 million.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
15 million? Okay.
As of May 31st.
I must look at the wrong number. Okay. This I thought it was expenditure was more than the income, but
Yeah, no.
yeah.
Thankfully, the answer is no.
I look at the different.
Which is actually, and as reported earlier, we are favorable to budget as of May 31st.
Good. See, no other questions? Thanks again, Donna. And again, Chris, you're off hold.
Yes, the ACSC met on July 6th. During the department head update, Michael Horton, Manor Alterations Manager, introduced David Rudge, the new inspector, who will be handling variations. Mr. Horton added that Mr. Rudge has been a licensed B1 contractor since 1986 and spent 7 years with Leisure World in Seal Beach. In addition, the committee approved the following documents for submission to the board, which were voted on earlier in this meeting. That is revisions to Architectural Standard 42 ramps, revisions to Architectural Standard 16 garage doors is sectional or one piece, contractor violation policy, revisions to alteration fee schedule, revised resale inspection fee. ACSE tabled until August 14th. The revisions to Architectural Standard 8 porch lift elevators. The next ACSE meeting is scheduled for Monday, August 14th at 1:30 p.m. in the boardroom.
Great, thank you. Next, hopefully we'll hear about what's going on with the Third Maintenance and Construction Committee. Ralph?
I'm going to have to beg off of that. Jim chaired for me earlier this month, July 11, and I had, for personal reasons, had to run in and out of the meeting a few times, so I'm not really up to speed on it.
Okay.
We'll cover it next month.
Okay, we will. Thanks for that. And yeah, Jim's unavailable today as well. So we'll move on to the Garden Villa Rec Room Subcommittee. This committee last met on Wednesday, July 5th, when the committee discussed the status of the previously agreed plan as to which maintenance activities would be performed for which rec rooms in 2023. So we reviewed the status of that plan, and most activities have started and a few are even complete. We also selected new carpet options for rec room floors as a result of the existing carpet vendor pricing going, I would say through the ceiling, but since it's carpet, I'll come up with something else. And we also requested staff to create a couple of spreadsheets for the committee to allow us to make better decisions going forward. And this subcommittee will next meet on Wednesday, November 1st at 1:30 p.m. here in the boardroom. Next, we'll hear about the Landscape Committee. Ira?
So the Landscape Committee last met Thursday, July 6th at 9:30 here in the boardroom. Basically, aside from general housekeeping, just to let everybody know, we started working, or our contractor started working in the open space, expanding to 100 feet our buffer zone. You can see the trucks out there spraying and people actually digging and pulling up things that shouldn't be there, and this will go on for the next couple of years. We're continuing to proceed with the turf reduction program. We are also waiting for more designs to add to the ones we already have for turf reduction, so things don't look the same everywhere. We're also waiting for designs for some larger areas which would create amenities and value for Third, while saving landscape expense, both labor and water. The urban forestry management plan is coming close to an end. The committee members were asked to send in their particular issues that they'd like to be addressed, and hopefully at the next meeting that will be complete. The other exciting thing for the entire Third community is that we've added 2 more full-time employees on the ground in Third in landscape, and this is to help in every area that they're needed. So to create efficiencies, to create client satisfactions, to eliminate backlogs whenever possible. If someone's sick, they fill in, so the ball keeps rolling, and that the level of quality can be maintained at a higher level than being short crewed. And our next meeting will be Thursday, August 3rd at 9:30 here in the boardroom.
Great, thanks, Ira. Is there anything you'd like to share regarding Water Conservation Committee, Donna? that you
Other
haven't
than the
already?
fact that our meeting is a week from Thursday, what's interesting is our meeting's at 2 o'clock that afternoon, and that night at 7 p.m. is the public hearing from El Toro Water District. So usually we have wonderful participation at our water conservation meetings, our quarterly meetings from El Toro. We are hopeful that they will be there that day, given the fact that they've got that hearing. I do plan on attending the public hearing, and we'll share that with the board.
Great, thank you. And finally, for Third Board Committee updates, we have the Resident Policy and Compliance Committee. This committee last met on Tuesday, June 27th, when we discussed Third's financial qualification requirements, Third's barbecue policy, and Third's disciplinary violation matrix and schedule of monetary penalties. This committee will next meet on Wednesday, July 26th at 9:30 a.m. here in the boardroom. We will continue to discuss the barbecue policy, our disciplinary violations matrix, our schedule of monetary penalties, and we will also plan to review the noise portion of our nuisance policy. That's all we have for third mutual committees. We'll now move on to agenda item 15, where we'll share our monthly GRF committee status updates, starting with the GRF Finance Committee. Donna?
Yes, the GRF Finance Committee met just a couple of weeks ago on June 21st. We do meet only every other month, so it was quite recent. And probably two significant things. The most significant is that the investments have moved from the negative reporting to positive as they have gone into Treasury bills, and those are doing extremely well. And of course, looking at budgets and seeing where they're going to go, just as we are. And that's primarily what was done, and our next meeting will be August 16th at 1:30 in the boardroom and virtually.
Okay, thank you. What's the latest with the GRF Compliance Ad Hoc Committee, Andy?
The committee last met Friday, July 14th. The committee discussed basically two items, and that was the additional occupancy fee and the member disciplinary process. On the member disciplinary process, we clarified some items, added some definitions, just made it clearer. On the additional occupancy fee, that was a very informative, detailed discussion, because as you all know, the law in California changed, and they're well-intentioned changes, but it's not clear how that'll impact Laguna Woods Village. So we talked about what does additional occupancy mean, and it could mean an extra person, an extra two persons, an extra three persons. So in the end, we decided to forward it to the Finance Committee in GRF to discuss adequate occupancy fees based on a more detailed reading of the law, which we don't have at this time. The next meeting is going to be Friday, August 11th, 9:30 a.m. in the boardroom.
Okay. Thank you, Andy. And next we have the GRF Security and Community Access Committee, SK.
Yes, GRF SCAC meeting was held on June 28th, 1:30 p.m. in this boardroom. In that meeting, we discussed about food control as a security matter, and then next item was crosswalk sign and painting issues at Estrada Mallorca cross-section and Estrada Calle Aragon cross-section, and other 4 sections painting issues. And then disaster matters, a long-range radio antenna was installed at the clubhouse. And the next item was real hand-on training for disaster programs. And the third item was concerns on the no backup emergency generator at Clubhouse 3, and then still has not been installed. Or perhaps we go by whatever we have on that emergency exit sign. However, we still requesting some emergency generator. And the last item was a security officer demonstrated and reported on a pilot program of 220-volt fire avert device trial for kitchen stove fire prevention. That demonstration was very nice, and anybody who interested in purchase that item, I guess they can purchase and install on the stove, electric stove, 220-volt size. That was the demonstration we had. And the next DPTE meeting will, next GRF Security and Community Access Committee meeting will be on August the 23rd, 1 p.m. here at Boardroom. Thank you.
All right, thanks, SK. Do you have any updates you can share with us from yesterday's GRF Community Access Committee, Kush?
Certainly. The CAC, or Community Activities Committee, was held yesterday in the boardroom. Actually, it was at 10 a.m. and it went on till about 1. We reviewed a bunch of operating policy for operations policy. I can't remember exactly what it's called. For 17 of the 35 different activities that we have, they've been a lot of amendments were made and sent back to the staff for amendments and review. We also discussed or accepted a donation for the Equestrian Center's small pony very gracefully. Thank you to the donor. July 4th event at Clubhouse 2 was discussed. It was a great success. There were almost 1,000 people and a great band, and it was a good event in general. Our next committee meeting is August 10th. Is that correct? At 1:30 p.m. in the boardroom. Sure.
Next, we have the Information Technology Advisory Committee. This committee, known as ITAC, is overseeing the development and implementation of the new village-wide computer system. The first phase of this effort will focus on accounting tools and is expected to go live later this year. First phase is currently in testing and going well. And the ITAC is scheduled to next meet on Friday, July 28th. And do you have any updates you can share with us from yesterday's GRF Media and Communications Committee, Chris?
Yes, the highlights touched upon the success of the email blast from the Mutual and GRF Board, which was instituted by Third Mutual. The Third Mutual's President's newsletter is reaching approximately 4,200 email addresses. The method of disseminating information by email blast has been successful, such that United and GRF followed suit. Another highlight is the Broadband Services Division reported subscriptions to its premium channels are decreasing, which is attributable to residents moving over into streaming services. The committee also was informed of upcoming expiring programming contracts. Contracts expiring this year includes Fox Sports Network, CBS and CBS Sports, and Stadium College Sports. Contracts expiring in 2024 includes Fox KTTV, Comedy Central, and several Discovery networks. The report indicated the projected rate of increase to renew these contracts is between 5% and 15%. The next committee meeting is scheduled for Monday, September 18th at 1:30 in the boardroom.
Okay, great. Thanks, Chris. And finally, the following GRF committees have not met since the last third board meeting of June 20th, so there are no updates for these. The GRF Clubhouse Facilities Renovation Ad Hoc Committee last met on March 6th, and the date and time of its next meeting is to be determined. The GRF Landscape Committee last met on May 10th and is scheduled to next meet on Tuesday, August 22nd at 1:30 p.m. here in the boardroom. The GRF Purchasing Ad Hoc Committee last met on May 25th, and the date and time of its next meeting is to be determined. The GRF Media and Communications Committee we just heard about. The GRF Website Ad Hoc Committee last met on May 22nd, and the date and time of its next meeting is to be determined. The GRF Broadband Ad Hoc Committee last met on May 31st and is scheduled to next meet on Tuesday, August 1st. The Village Woods Laguna, Hello. The Laguna Woods Village traffic hearings were last held on May 17th and is scheduled to meet next tomorrow, Wednesday, July 19th. The GRF Maintenance and Construction Committee last met on June 14th and is scheduled to next meet on Wednesday, August 9th at 9:30 a.m. here in the boardroom. The GRF Disaster Preparedness Task Force last met on June 5th and is scheduled to next meet on Tuesday, July 25th at 9:30 a.m. here in the boardroom. And finally, the GRF Mobility and Vehicles Committee last met on June 7th and is scheduled to next meet on Wednesday, August 2nd at 1:30 p.m. here in the boardroom. That concludes our committee reports, and we're now on agenda item 16, which is for the board to note any items we would like to discuss at a future board meeting. So far, we have 2 items that we put on to 28-day review today, and that was for Architectural Standard 42 for ramps and Architectural Standard 16 for garage doors. Are there any other items anyone would like to add to be considered for future agenda item at this time? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to director's comments. We're almost done. Agenda item 17. Do any directors have any last comments they'd like to share? SK?
No.
Okay, thanks.
No.
All right, and Moon? Any last comments? It looks like Moon has some potentially on financial.
Yeah, financial, when you look at page 2, total expense was 11 million. And page 6, total expense is 15 million. There's about 3 million difference in
Okay.
same item.
Okay.
So I wonder what's the difference.
What were those 2 slides you were talking about? Was slide number 2?
It's something, maybe I made a mistake.
One maybe has a depreciation on it, the other.
Yeah, there's one without depreciation.
I couldn't figure out.
This one does not, excludes depreciation. This one does not.
So is that depreciation is
What's
3?
your second slide?
Okay, slide 2 and slide 6.
Yeah, you go ahead. So I couldn't figure out why 3 million difference.
That's not depreciation.
Non-cash outlays.
Yeah, it's also the operating income is here, and this is not necessarily operating.
Yeah, it's page 2 total expense 11 million. And page 6 is 15 million. So there is some 3 million difference.
Yeah, so I think the first one is just operating.
Yeah, the first one is definitely just operating,
operating
and it looks like as you look at these, that there is a little bit from some of the others, including like repairs and maintenance is 1%.
Yes, part of reserves.
So looking at total expense isn't telling you which funds it came from, and slide number 2 is clearly operating. And plus, there's one with and one without depreciation, which also.
So depreciation make about 3 million?
No.
No, it's just
No, it
part of
shouldn't be. It's just, yeah, it's just, but I do think that what we're
What is the
looking at.
second slide?
The second slide is 6. It was 2 and 6.
6, can you go to 6, please, Paul?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure we
So-
are correct.
So this one here, Moon's, slide 6 includes reserves, expenses against reserves, Yep, which is not included in slide 2.
Slide 2 is only the operating fund.
Yeah. So, but you bring up a good point. We'll work with finance and see if there's any way to make that more clear going forward. So don't want other people to be confused.
I'm pretty sure nobody skimmed any money, but
Yeah,
there's
no,
3 million difference.
but
so I
you might
couldn't
even
figure out
recall
why.
that some money came out of the disaster fund for water damage repair. Well, this slide that says total expenses would include that. The disaster fund is from a different fund, so, yeah, but good eye.
Yeah, yeah,
We
yeah,
like
thanks.
to know you're looking at it.
That's right. So any other comments, Moon? No. Okay, Ira? No. Okay, Chris, anything? Donna?
No.
Kush? All right, staff? Done. Ralph, any final comments?
No comment, thank you.
Okay. Great. The business of our open meeting has now been completed. At this time, the monthly board meeting will recess for 7 minutes and reconvene to executive session at 1 o'clock. So we'll see you up there and get started once everybody's gotten their lunch. I consider this meeting now closed. Thanks to you for participating and listening. Thanks, everybody.